How can that just not work all of a sudden?
Hello and welcome to an Oddcast. I'm just going to bring Carly on. Okay, we've got you. We've got you for now, Carly. Can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
I can. We just had literally last second dramas. The show, the counter had just gone to it's showtime and we were about to click the button. And then, Carly, you're not using a Mac, are you? Hello?
Hello?
Hello. I've now got multiple of you. How many of you do we need?
What is happening?
I don't know.
Hang on. What is
Right.
happening?
I don't know. I don't know what's happening. You're using a Mac is what's happening.
You're not even here. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. It actually sounds really great now.
Oh, fucking hell.
All right. So hopefully whatever that gremlin was, we just exorcised it out of the system because that is the best. That's the clearest your image has been and your audio is coming through fine. So I think we're good. Hey, everybody. Welcome to an Oddcast. It wouldn't be an Oddcast if it wasn't odd. Dear. All right. Thanks everyone for
technology.
Look, I love it when it works, which is almost never. Look, lots of people are getting very, very hot under the collar. But Carly, you and I aren't going to. You're going to get spicy. Of course you are. You're spicy, Carls. That's one of the reasons why we love you. But let's, like, honestly, everyone, let's have a decent conversation about this. Anyone who wants to troll in the comments, yeah, go for it, whatever. But don't expect to get put on the screen. And even if you super chat, if your comment is just inappropriate or derogatory or whatever, then yeah, not interested. We're not going to put it on the screen. So
I'm going to say something before we get started. And this is to everyone watching and everyone that watches it after the live stream finishes. And that is those of you who are now jumping on Topher because he disagrees with you, you're behaving exactly how Abby Chatfield does. Because you want, let me explain. And if you've watched the show enough times, you'll understand. But for those of you who might be new here, who are jumping on, let me explain the bucket theory to you. And the bucket theory is this. You are trying to find someone that fits in your bucket. And then you collect someone. That person might be Topher. And you love Topher because he speaks how you feel. And you get to hide behind Topher because you're like, yeah, what he said. And for a good 6, 7, 8 months, you have a lovely relationship. You watch all his YouTubes, you go, yes, amazing. And then one day, Topher turns around having all that goodwill with you and says one thing that you don't like. And you go, oh, no, you're controlled opposition. And I always knew it. Guys, This is called groupthink. And well done. You are just like every lefty who has to clap like Abby Chatfield. So if you can't handle the fact that while we mostly agree on 80%, but there's likely to be moments where we disagree and you're going to throw a little tanty with your little anonymous X posts and your little anonymous profile pictures that you refuse to put your name or your face to, grow the fuck up.
Yeah. Now on that, by the way, I wasn't going to say anything about this march at all. The reason I entered the fray on this particular march, because I was like, you know what, it's not I'm not interested, not my fight. I've been very public about my position on immigration for literally 16 years. So anyone that's like, he's not what I thought he was, well, okay, you just haven't been paying attention or you haven't been following me for very long. That's fine. But, you know, I've not been hiding. I've not been secret and then switch. This is literally what I've been saying for a decade and a half. But the reason I got involved in this is because they tried to use my face to advertise the march. Now, I happen to know some of the organizing committee behind it. And yes, not all of them are fash, but some of them are. And when you look at how they hang out, I did a video on this, you look at where they hang out, you look at the jokes that get told, you watch them, you know, who they're a part of. The internet's a big place. You can hang out with anyone you want. If you choose to hang out with a bunch of people that make jokes about Schindler's List being the greatest movie you ever saw, as long as, you know, you stop watching before the end or whatever it is that they say, right? This is the nonsense that they're talking. If you're choosing to hang out with those people, that says something about you. And I'm allowed to notice that. And then if you try to use my face and my reputation and 16 years of goodwill that I've earned through blood, sweat, and tears and you want to put my face on your event that you won't put your face on, we just went to war. And I don't play nice.
Amen.
So that's what triggered this. People are like, oh, you didn't have to do that. No, the minute they put my face on their event, with me knowing who was really behind it, I absolutely had to do that. They forced my hand. I hit back. I'm not going to go into the details. The video's there. All right. I've done what I needed to do. I've separated myself from that event in no uncertain terms. And anyone that wants to listen to me, listen. If you want to go to the event, go to the event, but have your antenna up. Be very aware of who's near you in the protest. If there are lots of people wearing masks and not showing their faces, maybe that's not a part of the event you want to be in. Be aware of what's written on the signs that are near you. Sorry.
I'm going to interject for a second with this one here. Leah S. We don't fucking ban people from the chat. First, rule number one,
Leah,
guys, just like, let me just set the stage for you fucking losers, right? Topher and I really don't give a shit. Say whatever the fuck you want. Most of you do it behind a fake fucking name, and I'm going to swear a lot. So if you can't handle swearing, clutch your pearls, sweetheart. You're going to hear it.
Right.
Topher and I aren't someone that suffer fools lightly. And we also are very, very well equipped to speak whatever the fuck we want to say with our faces from our own mouths. If you don't like it, you don't have to fucking watch. It's a Monday night. Yep. Chances are you may have been at work today, but if you're one of those, you might not have been at work. You could be anywhere. Let me remind you one little fucking thing. You have free will. You are choosing to be here. If you don't like what we're saying, that's okay. You're still here on your own free will. You don't like it, fuck off. It's really simple.
All right, Carly, thank you for the ground rules. Thank you for taking care of the the administrative stuff. Normally they have to say, well, the emergency exit's over there and the toilet's over there. Our administrative stuff is just fuck off if you want.
I just want to finish one more thing. Okay, I can't be fucked with these comments. We don't ban people. We don't care, honey. Say what you fucking want to say. If you've gotten banned from YouTube, it's not us. It's probably YouTube. Probably because you put some slurs in there. Probably because you're really aggressive. We ain't in control of that. One other thing. We don't own YouTube. I don't make the rules, man. I play by them, so we get to show up.
There's a couple of things. We want to go through. We need to talk about echo chambers because this is a big part of this. This is a big part of the problem. People on all sides are coming at it saying everyone agrees with me. Sorry, almost definitely not true. The actual honest to God truth is the vast majority of Australians don't know that this debate is going on and don't care that this debate is going on. Let's not forget that recently in a poll, I think it was either 60-something or 70-something% of Australians couldn't name the current Prime Minister. Let's understand, if you're having an argument about immigration numbers, and about whether or not people should show up to a march about immigration, you are, no matter which side you're on, you are already inside of a bubble inside of a bubble. Right, you are multiple degrees down into Bubblesville, right? And I don't say that to be derogatory to the other side. Oh, you guys are at it. No. On all sides, we are the exceptions. We are all an exceptionally small minority of Australians. The vast majority don't give a rat's. They care about cost of living. They care about stuff. But honestly, they don't even know this is happening. They wouldn't show up if they did. They just want to be able to work and get on with stuff and have a beer on the weekend. Now, secondly, we need to talk. We are going to touch on the rally a little bit, but honestly, that's not what this is about. We're not here to have an argument about whether you should show up at the rally. I'm a libertarian. Show up if you want, but don't be an idiot and keep your eyes open. We're actually here to just try and get down to the nuts and bolts of the issue, because I think what we'll discover as we go through is that actually on both sides there's an enormous amount of overlap and agreement on what the problem is. And there isn't even necessarily disagreement on what the solution is. There's disagreement about the order in which, the order of priorities for the solution. And fixing it in a different order fixes things in a different way. And I think that's the main point of the debate. But Carly, if you'll allow me, I just want to jump into a good faith comment here, a good faith question that was asked by Found Hope. Thank you for the super chat. We appreciate it. Hi, Topher. Just finished your last video, and once again, I have to give it a thumbs down. Your immigration numbers are way off. Take into account student visas, temporary work visas, etc., and overstays. Yeah, so you're absolutely right. The temporary and student visas and so forth are on top of the population number doesn't include those people. But what you need to take into account is that those people are rolling over and rotating. And they were already here in large numbers a long time ago. And so, yeah, okay, this year we've issued X number of thousands or hundreds of thousands of student visas, temporary visas, etc. But a whole bunch of other people have lost theirs as well. And so there's a certain amount of rollover in that. In order to actually get that detailed data, that proved to be very, very elusive. And the video was already long enough as it was. And I just don't believe that this is going to substantially change. I mean, the fact is, based on the numbers that I showed you, immigration for the last 20 years has been mid-range. It's been mid-range.
I have all the numbers.
Of the post-war era. So, yes, that does add on top. You're absolutely right. But has that created a massive increase in the ramp up? Not really, because we've been issuing those for a very long time in very large numbers because our university sector depends on them. So that was why I chose to leave that out of that particular video. The video was already long enough.
Can I just interject with it? I just want to make a couple of things. Like, I gave you my spicy thing. When it comes to this issue, there is actually going to be no, like, that's the definitive answer, because there is no definitive answer of this. This is politics. Welcome if you're new to politics. This is how it works.
Yeah.
There is no end goal. There is no finish line. These ideas have been debated since prior to Christ. Like, welcome, this is what the Greeks did and the Romans did. And thinking that your solution is the right solution and that's going to play out exactly how you think it will in your head shows a level of ignorance. Now, I'm not saying that to be disparaging. I'm saying that a lot of people seem to think that they've got this idea that if we stop immigration, everything gets resolved. Now, Topher and I disagree on immigration substantially, and we'll get in that in a second. Yes, but a lot of the people in this chat and a lot of the people who are calling us shills and controlled opposition, I just want to touch on that. Controlled opposition by who? Who do you think is throwing money at this? They don't need to. Like, no. And I'm not saying this, again, to be disparaging. I'm saying this so that you guys get it. We do what we do voluntarily. We do this because, A, Topher and I enjoy it, and B, we can. Now, there are so many things that could take us offline. It could be YouTube. It could be the Australian government. It could be anything. Now, when you say controlled opposition, you're implying that there's some nefarious, shadowy figure that's walking around to people like me or Rukshan or Avi or Topher and just giving us bags of cash and going, yeah, say that. Are you joking? Have a look.
Carly, are you not getting your bags of cash, Carly?
No, they seem to have forgotten where I live. But I just
I'll make some calls. It's fine. I'll make some calls.
I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I just want to make this very clear. Okay, let me just paint my own experience here. Now, we've got a lot of people here, so let's have a listen. I spoke up during lockdown, and it cost me so much. Of all the people who spoke up in the freedom movement, I copped it worse than most. Now, no, I didn't get arrested, but I was nationally humiliated, and I was defamed, and what happened after that was months and months of torturous abuse. My name, my face, my reputation completely slandered, and I could not fix it. Why? Because I was on the wrong side of the argument as far as the media and Daniel Andrews were concerned. Now, all of you who have got all this bravado on Twitter, on YouTube, whatever, how many of you have actually been in the firing line? I know you feel really confident because you've amassed your little audience on X and you feel really, really powerful. Go and put your name and your face out there and say the unpopular thing and tell me what happens next. Now, I'm not speaking for Topher. I'm speaking for me. This looks like death threats. This looks like rape threats. I'll tell you the worst one. People in my backyard terrorizing me for weeks on end, banging on my windows every fucking night. Let me make it even clearer. Every time I called the Warren Ponds police station, they fucking laughed. This was every night for weeks and weeks and weeks. There are still news articles about me online that are defamatory and that are factually wrong. I live with this every fucking day. I can't change my face. I can change my name, but people will still know who I am. I made a video in COVID that went viral and was viewed 40 million times. I put my face to my cause. I spoke up and I took those bullets. And I can tell you now, on the other side, it's not very fucking fun. So all of you who stand there behind your fake profile pictures, your fake names, and say, oh, we don't have to put a face to a protest. We're just going to show up. Watch as the media gives you a really swift fucking lesson in how quickly they can ruin your life. Let me say it from someone who lived through it. They will do everything they can to make you look as bad as possible. And what does that mean? It means you'll probably get fired from your job. You'll lose most of your friends. You will find for years and years after the event, people have defined you as whatever villain they want you to be. And you will be fighting against that the rest of your fucking life. I have been living with this myself. And I don't speak for Topher, I speak for me. So whilst you think you're all fucking brave on the internet, let me tell you, the real world consequences vary greatly. So take that with a grain of salt. Don't fucking tell me how I think and feel. I've done it. I've been there, collected the t-shirt. It's not very fucking fun. So if you want to sit there and put your fucking mouth together, do it as yourself. Do it with your fucking name. Otherwise, it means nothing. You're a coward. That's my piece. I told you it'd be spicy.
Speaking of getting the t-shirts, Carl, nice of you to be so even and calm tonight. It's lovely. But Daniel Brune, good evening, Topher and Carl's just rescued the Tangent Time t-shirt. Looks amazing. It's healthy not to agree on 100% of topics. Love the work you both do. Well, thank you, Daniel, both for the comment, the super chat, and also for grabbing the t-shirt, mate. Much appreciated. You're supporting us, helping us to keep doing what we do. Now, found hope.
Anyway,
I genuinely appreciate this. Yeah, I genuinely appreciate this, the way you've opened this comment. You're not hated, just wrong. That's such an important thing, and I'm really pleased that you brought that up. It is so easy when you see someone that disagrees, they're on the other side of something you're really passionate about. You've got really strong opinions on either side, and you really believe in it, and this really matters to you. And then you come across someone who's got really strong opinions on the other side who really believe in it, and it really matters to them. It's so easy. It's genuinely human nature to jump into this. You're the enemy. You're the problem. I have to steamroll over you and destroy you at any cost. And this hatred really kicks in. So genuinely, you're completely disagreeing with me, but I appreciate the way you're doing it. Found Hope goes on to say, immigration is not a scapegoat. It's a symptom of the larger problem of the big useless government. Well, I would argue, though, that you've just said what I say, which is we've got a big useless government. And rather than focusing on one symptom of it, we need to focus on the source, which is the big useless government. On a lighter note for the haters, I'll add buy Topher some balls option on website. So I will have the buy Topher a coffee button. It's funny. I was just watching the I sent the trailer to the Lady Ballers movie off to someone that I'm chatting with today. You remember? Yeah. Did you see the Lady Ballers movie?
I saw bits of it. I didn't watch the full thing.
It was actually funny. I really enjoyed it. That was the Daily Wire movie about a trans basketball team, which was genuinely funny.
So
sorry, you go.
Sorry, go. You go.
I was just going to quickly say, so Oz Integrity gets mentioned here. I've got a lot of time for Oz Integrity, but there's a lot of accounts that are just discovering that I'm a libertarian, not a right winger. And for some of them, it's come as a shock, including many people that we were very close and we were aligned during COVID. And now all of a sudden they're like, oh, this guy's actually got this radical, crazy libertarian streak to him. Well, I never hid that. It's always been actually front and center if you go to my website or anywhere else.
Yeah.
But some people are having a bit of a shock. And they're suddenly veering off. And look, in my experience, keep in mind, I've done this for 16 years. When I first started speaking out, it was about water. And farmers loved me. And then I started speaking out against censorship. And farmers are a conservative bunch, and a lot of them quite like censorship. Oh, no, we need to protect the children, blah, blah, blah. So all of a sudden, I lost a bunch of them, but I picked up a bunch of other people. Then I started talking about the carbon tax, and I lost a bunch of people, including farmers, who were like, no, climate change is real. And so my entire journey, I have been speaking up for minority points of view that are not popular. And I've been having people want to get in my grill and tell me all about how they used to like my work, and now they realize I'm a add pejorative here. That's literally been 16 years of my life. And in my experience, what happens is they do this and then give it 6 months to 18 months. And some of them are coming back to me going, I want to say I'm really sorry. Turns out actually you were right. Right. And that's honestly, that's going to happen again here. I'm very confident of it. A lot of people that are right now reacting really sharply are going to be coming back to me going, sorry about that. I overdid that a little bit. And that's fine. I'll be happy to welcome people with open arms. I don't like to burn bridges. I've actually literally done it for the first time over this issue. And it's because they tried to drag my face into their protest. And I well and truly, I burnt those bridges and then desecrated the ashes. But you know, it's not something I normally do. And if people want to badmouth me now and then come back later and be like, sorry, I kind of overreacted, that's cool. I've got no issue with that.
I'm just going to pull up this comment because I see it all the time. And before we address the comment, Lee, if you want us to read your comment out and you're just going to keep insulting us, you're not endearing yourself. Why would we talk about your shit if you're going to call us grubs? Have you not learned how to make friends? I have no idea how old you are, but calling people grubs is probably not going to get them to answer your question. So based on that, I'm not going to answer it. You're welcome.
So good comment here, connoisseur of cookies. Good work on calling out the wingnuts and the accelerationists. We must know how to make clear a friend-enemy distinction. I'm going to come back to that. The enemy of my enemy is not always my friend. Helicopters are omnidirectional. Be really careful with the friend-enemy language, like for the reasons that we just kind of talked about. Like I get it. Like you can use that in a non-violent, non-extreme way, but also people use the exact same words in a very extreme way. The reality is I have spent my entire life in politics working with people with whom I passionately disagree. Senator Malcolm Roberts is the senator that I have said the most praise for over my journey. I have nothing but praise for the man. He and I are diametrically opposed on immigration, right? Yeah. But he is a man that I don't just respect, I admire. I hope to be more like him as I get older. The combination of insight with humility, with sheer outright work ethic is unlike anything I've seen in any other human being, much less any other politician. And I have nothing but high praise for him. I've had high praise all the way through. But we've known since we met that we do not agree on immigration. But he's man enough to work with me, and I'm man enough to work with him. And so it's really important not to turn someone who disagrees with you on one topic into an enemy that you cannot work with on any topic.
Well, even you and I, Topher, we agree on most things, but there's a couple of things that you and I are at odds with, and it is immigration. That's a big one. And we're also, what else are we at odds with? Actually. Yeah, that's our biggest.
That's the number one, yeah.
And I'm also a lot more heavy-handed when it comes to sweeping reform, and we all know that I'm a big fan of Nayib Bukele. So
yeah, probably law and order, but I can understand where you're coming from with that because that's touched you. I mean, I've been a victim of crime numerous times, but nothing relatively recent. And so I can understand that you've got a much stronger kind of visceral connection to that issue than what I do right now.
Well, so let's just for the sake of things, in a couple of sentences, summarize where we are on the immigration thing. So I'll give you guys where I'm at. As someone who has traveled the world, I can tell you now there are vast lands full of wonderful people, and they don't look like you and I. What I love about that is everyone has these very diverse lives. Everyone has very different life experiences. And you know what? You can learn something from that. I am pro-immigration if we are bringing people into this country who will want to assimilate and add value to our country. I want to bring in people who see Australia and go, fuck yeah, what a cool place to live. I can't wait. And they bring their family here. They participate, they build something here, and they contribute. I'm all for that. What I'm not for, and what we'll get into in a second, and I'm conscious this is a big topic, is just letting anyone come into this country. I have a really big issue with us importing people from war zones and people that aren't vetted. Now, this is something that Topher and I disagree on vehemently. I believe that these people should be vetted and granted a very circumstantial visa. And I've said this before, and Topher disagrees with me, but look, we still get along. Isn't that funny? I believe that if a family comes here on a refugee visa, and whether it's the patriarch of the family or the child commit a serious crime, out. No excuses. The whole family, out. Now, I say that for a couple of reasons. One, I believe the punishment needs to be severe because you only need to do that a handful of times to decentivize people doing the same thing. If all of a sudden that's what Australia stands for, guess what? Less people are going to do it. And why do we know this? Because we see this when we have serious penalties for crime in countries like Singapore, in Dubai. Those people don't take shit. I don't understand in Australia why we allow people to come here, break our laws, and we let them out on bail. So that's where I stand on immigration. I believe that we should be incentivizing the top of the top. I want to contrast this to Dubai. Let's look at Dubai. It has a relatively small Emirati population, regardless how the city was built, because the first thing people will say is the city was built on slaves. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about how the country of the UAE, the city of Dubai, is incentivizing high-value people to come and live in its city. They want you to do well for a couple of reasons. It benefits them, brings more wealth into the country. It helps them build stronger infrastructure. And if we just rewind the clock a little bit to what Dubai looked like, it was a desert. It has only got there from oil, and they all know that they can't sustain it. It's why Saudi Arabia is opening up to the Western world. It's why they're building huge infrastructure projects. They are incentivizing high caliber people who can come and contribute. And look what happens in Dubai. You don't pay income tax. You can go there and genuinely prosper. And yes, it's expensive to live there, but you're compensated with how much you earn. Now, the opposite is happening in Australia. We're opening the doors for anyone. We're not vetting these people. And as a consequence, yeah, we're importing a lot of people who firstly don't like us. They don't want to assimilate. And then they're bringing their families in. And you look at what's happening in the UK, and it's causing catastrophic problems for the UK nationals. So this is the issue about immigration and where everyone stands. I don't believe we should shut the borders forever, but I do believe we need to plug it because we've got some serious issues. So that's where I stand on it.
All right, excellent. I want to jump to this comment here. So I'll give my opening stanza in just a moment. But a question is, hey, Topher, has there been any updates on the resistance movements to try and squash this age verification stuff? Yes, I was actually talking to Craig Kelly on the phone today. Unfortunately, for those of you that have penciled in the 13th of September, it is now being postponed to a date that they were hoping to confirm this afternoon, but I haven't had an update yet. The reason for that is because there's a by-election has been called in. There's a seat up that way where the sitting member has just gone to prison for rape, of all things. And so there's a by-election has been called. And as a result of that, the by-election's on the day that we'd penciled in the protest. And unfortunately, what that means is they would be kind of leaving their candidate in the lurch, the person who's trying to fight and potentially gain some ground in that seat, if everyone said, oh, sorry, we're off to a protest instead. So they're looking for a different date for it, and I will be updating all of my audience as soon as I have an update on what the date for that protest is going to be. So this is the protest that's going to be out the front of the E-Karen's office. I
need to draw your attention to this comment. $500, that's the biggest super chat we've ever had and probably ever will get. That is insane. CJ Westman, I'm speechless. I actually don't know what to say to that. That's insane. Thank you, firstly. I'm going to read your comment. So thank you. I think TI or Topher, I appreciate we disagree on immigration, but what do you think about importing people from collectivist cultures such as continental European countries or places like India where many religions are in conflict, but they come together as one in love with their real religion of suffocating bureaucracy? I'm all for open borders, but rid welfare first.
Yeah,
you can answer that one.
Yeah, look, so some really good points in there. So firstly, thank you. That's massive. And yeah, wow. I appreciate we disagree on immigration. What do you think about importing people from collectivist cultures such as continental European countries? So what's really interesting to me, much of Eastern Europe is actually a really great place of the world right now because they have a relatively recent cultural memory of communism and living under the thumb of actual tyranny. And what was notable to me during all the COVID marches and all of that was actually there were two groups that were distinctly overrepresented as a proportion of the population. There were a lot more of these people, and they were confessing Christians. So they were everywhere throughout that whole protest movement. By no means every single person was. There were plenty of atheists and other religions as well. But as a proportion of the population, there were a lot of Christians out there. The other one was Eastern Europeans. And they might have been first-generation immigrants. They might have been second-generation immigrants. But they would come and they would talk to me and they'd say, Topher, I want to tell you about what I saw, or I want to tell you about the stories my dad or my mum, or in some cases, my granddad used to tell me. And they've got this recent cultural memory of what it's like to live under that kind of tyranny. And honestly, if I could, I would scoop up more people from those countries and bring them to Australia because we need more of that anti-collectivist, anti-communist kind of ideology.
Yeah.
Places Places like India, where many religions are in conflict, but they come together as one in love with their real religion of suffocating bureaucracy. Well, they got that from the English, the same as we did. So let's not forget, India was a British colony for quite a long period of time. It was run by the British Raj. And that's where they learnt their love of bureaucracy from. And unfortunately, here in Australia, we learnt also the love of bureaucracy, but we also have that convict mentality. We love a rule. We love being in chains, unfortunately. I've got no issue just coming to the question of immigration. I'm not going to answer that here. I'm going to answer that when I kind of give my initial sort of précis of where I'm at with immigration. I'm all for open borders, but read welfare first. Yes, that's a key part of what I'm about to talk about. So I'm going to launch into my little piece coming off this comment. And thank you, CJ Westman, one more time for that amazing super chat. Thank you. So Cancel It One says, do you believe you can have too much immigration, and what are your thoughts on assimilation? My issue is the numbers at the moment and the culture, not immigration itself. Okay. So let me say my piece on this. Most of the problems that people are attributing to immigration are at most being made worse by immigration, but in many cases actually are completely disconnected from immigration altogether. So for example, we are in a per capita recession right now. And a lot of people say, well, they're importing people to try and, keep the GDP numbers up. Well, that's probably true, but that's not actually related to the fact that we're in a per capita recession right now. A per capita recession happens because the average productivity per person is dropping. So we need to, it's nothing to do with the number of people. So we need to ask, why is the productivity per person dropping? Well, it's dropping because we've got a record number of unproductive jobs. This is things like your NDIS helpers and that sort of stuff. The latest figures, I think 80% or so of the new jobs created since Albo came into power have been government jobs. These are inherently unproductive jobs compared to private sector jobs. And so what we've got is a situation where most of our job growth is in unproductive areas, and they need something to do. So most of those people, their job is to make the private sector less productive. They're regulating, or they're forcing people to do compliance paperwork, or they're simply being paid money that is being taken out of the private productive sector and being put into their pockets, and they're doing nothing really useful with it. That's what's killing our productivity, along with red tape, green tape, taxation, and a bunch of other stuff. So that's one example out of many where people go, well, if we're in a per capita recession, it must be because we have more capita, because more people have come in. And that's fixed pie thinking. They think the economy is a certain size and we divide that amongst all the people in the economy. That's not how this works at all. The economy grows and shrinks according to the multiplication of the number of people multiplied by the output per person. That's what the economy actually is. That's not a fixed number at all. So if we're in a per capita recession, it's because our per capita productivity has dropped, and that's got nothing to do with immigration. Now, the one area that does have some, or two areas that do have something to do with immigration, one is crime and the other is property prices. Now, let's take crime, because that's a very hot button issue, and it's as it should be. I mean, you know where I stand on crime. I think it's a disgrace that we're letting these people back out on bail. We know where you stand on crime, Carly. You've been a victim of it, and so forth. Crime is crime. And if you go to Alice Springs, they have a massive crime wave, but it's not an immigrant crime wave. Go to Darwin, they're in a massive crime wave. It's not an immigrant crime wave, right? So what we have in Australia is a failure to address crime. Now, some of the criminals are immigrants, and in fact, some of the hardened criminals are immigrants. And yes, what may have contributed to that may be their background, may be that they came out of a war zone, maybe various other factors. But what has definitely contributed to it is that we keep letting them out on bail. And we've turned it into a game for them where they gain street cred. This was us. We completely mismanaged this. What they needed was a good kick in the head from the legal system the first time, and then to not be let out if they did it a second time. That's what was necessary. We see the exact same thing happening in Alice Springs. We see the exact same thing happening in Darwin, where these people keep getting let back out again and they keep on getting to reoffend. So what we need to fix is not the immigrant crime problem. What we need to fix is the law and order problem, where we're not actually dealing with criminals harshly enough or properly. And your comments earlier, Carly, I agree with wholeheartedly about criminals. If someone commits a serious criminal offense, or I almost agree with wholeheartedly, if someone commits a serious criminal offense and they are not an Australian citizen, then as soon as they finish their sentence, we're sending them back. Now, me personally, I wouldn't send the whole family, because I don't believe in punishing groups for the actions of an individual. However, I would agree with sending that individual irrespective of their age. Forget any sob stories about, oh, they've got no family there, or they'll be in danger there, or they won't be able to look after themselves. Don't care. If you're worried about the welfare of your child as we send them back to where they came from because they committed a violent crime in our country, then you can volunteer to go with them, right? You're welcome to do that. They don't have family over there. Great. How about you, as their family, go back with them and keep them safe and look after them if you really care about them? But we're not keeping them here. So I'm all on board an extremely hardline approach against any sort of violent crimes from anyone who's not an Australian citizen. But we also have to get serious about violent crimes from people who are, because right now we don't have an immigrant crime problem. We have a crime problem. And that gets replicated across all the different issues that people are saying, oh, immigration's causing this problem. No, our weakness is causing this problem. Immigrants just happen to be some of the participants in the problem. Let me touch on housing and then I'll stop. So housing is the one area where, without doubt, supply and demand, someone's been in the comments like, oh, you don't understand supply and demand. Give it a rest.
God, can I just say the comments tonight are cooked.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
no, but I told you before we started, it's going to be ridiculous. So obviously, you add more people, you are adding demand. That's absolutely true. But the fact is that our population growth for the last 10 years, averaged over the 10 years, has been 16%, which means if you understand how compounding interest works, it's around about a 1.5% per annum compounding growth rate. If we as a country, now keep in mind, during the immigration waves of Greeks and Italians and so forth after the Second World War, we had immigration rates exceeding 24%. Right? Mm-hmm. Now we've got 16 over 10 years, 24% over 10 years. Now we've got 16% over 10 years. And you sit there and go, how come we aren't able to cope with a 1.5% compounding annual increase in our population? Forget whether it's immigrants or whether it's not. How come we can't cope with a 1.5% annual increase in our population? Something is fundamentally broken about Australia if we can't keep up with the infrastructure, the water supply, the roads, the electricity grid, the schools, the hospitals, and yes, the houses. Something is fundamentally broken about us if we can't keep up with 1.5%. Who cares? Let's say 1.5% was a baby boom. If we're sitting there as a country going, oh, we can't cope, there's too many babies. Something's wrong with us. And this is what I'm trying to draw attention to, because that thing that's broken, that thing that's causing the collapse in productivity, the thing that's causing our infrastructure to crumble with no one caring and no one replacing it, the thing that's caused us to rack up an enormous federal government debt that we are going to load up on our children was not immigrants. It was us. And we can end immigration today, and those problems will still continue to get worse. So my focus is, let's fix the actual problem, which is what's destroying Australia. And I'll get to my thoughts on immigration because I've spoken long enough, but there are ways to deal with immigration specifically. But that's my position on this. Let's fix the actual problem.
Now, this is where you and I disagree, because on paper, I agree with you. However, like you said, there's a real world tangibility that applies to me because I am a victim of crime. We had our home invaded. I then had all my photography equipment stolen out of the car while I was working. And I've seen what happens with youth crime. My issue is we are too far down this road. And you've made this analogy before. I'm going to throw it back to you. We are trying to put patches on the sinking ship, and people just keep putting holes in the hull. I think there has to be, like, across the board, whether it's our health sector, our NDIS, it's what we're doing to our kids in school. Everything is failing. Everything is failing at the moment. The quality of life in Australia is declining rapidly, and everyone knows that. And rightfully, we're all really pissed off about it. Now, is immigration the sole cause? No, but it's also an extra strain. And my issue is, and my biggest concern is, that look at the comments, Topher. Look how fired up these people are. This is radicalizing people. And so this is my issue. If we keep letting people into the country, we are pushing us towards a race war. And it's got nothing to do with race. This is the simplification of it. Everyone's looking at immigrants and saying, oh, it's the color of their skin or where they're from. No, it's the caliber of the person. I sound like Martin Luther King. But what this is, we need to stop mass immigration. I'm not saying close the borders. I'm saying put a plug in it, because at the moment, nothing is able to keep up. We are having a pressure cooker effect on Australian citizens, and we are, whether we like it or not, pushing more and more people over to the far right. Now, what people on the far right, and those of you who disagree with me in the chats and keep questioning my intellectual capacity, fail to recognize is that we just had a federal election. Who won it? Anthony Albanese. in a fucking landslide. You guys seem to think there is this silent majority just hiding somewhere that you're just trying to wake up. You're speaking as if you're the majority. You are living in echo chambers on X, where you believe that everyone thinks the same way you do. And I keep seeing the same comment. I don't know anyone that voted for Labor. I don't know anyone that voted for Albanese. Well, there's the answer. You don't get out enough. You don't speak to enough people, because I can tell you now, I can talk to my neighbor across the road. I can talk to my client at work tomorrow. I can talk to the person ringing out my groceries at Coles. And they'll go, oh, yeah, Anthony Albanese, he's all right. That's the average Australian. There isn't a closet silent majority that's sitting there going, I'm just waiting for someone to tell us to go on march and I'm going to be there. Now, I understand the sentiment for the protest, and I disagree with Topher. I actually agree with some of the sentiments. I definitely disagree with the race shit. I won't ever stand next to someone who talks about a white Australia. And you guys said, if you want to try and convince me of that, you can just fuck off now. You'll never win. But my issue is this collectivist mindset where you live in these echo chambers. And guys, you just criticize the left for doing this. Every time Abby Chatfield puts up a video, you guys all laugh at her. This chick's an idiot. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Abby Chatfield lives in an echo chamber. She's on TikTok, where most people are progressive, and they all indulge in each other. They all sit there and fluff each other's feathers and pull each other's dicks. You do the same on X. That's what you're doing. And so you think that somehow there's a whole bunch of people you just need to get together to go to this march. I hate to tell you, but you're the majority. Sorry, you're not the majority. You're the minority. Yeah. So what we actually have in Australia, and this is the biggest issue that we face, is political apathy, right? And I saw a comment before. I didn't star it. I should have. And the political apathy looks like this. And I just talked to someone at length about this, about what's happening in the UK. And in the UK, they currently have a bunch of leaders who are Muslim. And they're like, this is outrageous. How did this happen? I'm like, you want to know the secret? You ready, guys? Everyone come a bit closer. You ready? You ready? I'll tell you the secret. You know how they got into power? They ran. And they got voted in. Do you know what you're not doing? No answer? You're not running. How many of you guys are going and running for politics? Huh? No, what? Hang on. No, none. Oh, so you're angry that people who come here and qualify for citizenship then go run for politics and they don't look like you, and you're mad about that, but you're not running for politics. I'm sorry, I'm trying to understand the logic. You're mad that people are taking the jobs? Did you go and get the job? What's that? No, you don't want to work at 7-Eleven and do the graveyard shift. So this is the kind of thinking, oh, they're taking our jobs. Well, no, they're taking the jobs that we can't fill. Oh, they're all going into politics. Yeah, because you're not. So I don't know, like it's pretty straightforward. Yeah.
All right. We need to touch on echo chambers. You've touched on it already, but this is a conversation that you and I used to have, and we had publicly as well, because it's such an important one during all the COVID years, but we haven't really touched on it since. There hasn't been a context in which to talk about it. But then I want to get back to actually talking about how I would view fixing the immigration issue, but we'll get to that. And yes, as a libertarian, there is a libertarian solution to the immigration problem. Echo chambers. Here's a funny thing. You mentioned earlier that thing of, well, I know 100 people and they all agree with me. I don't know anybody who voted for Albanese, which, obviously, you need to get out more. But let's reflect for a moment on this idea that, well, the 100 people that I know best all agree with me. Okay. Well, firstly, that's evidence that you've curated an echo chamber. You've rejected out of your life, or been rejected out of their lives, one way or the other, all the people that you disagree with. It probably means you're either intolerant or obnoxious, or both. But anyway, let's just assume all the 100 people, they all agree with you. And all of the 100 people that they know all agree with us too. I talk to them and they say, oh, well, everyone I know agrees with me too. So I know 100 people, they all agree with me. Every one of them knows 100 people, they all agree with me. That must mean the whole of Australia is on my side. That's a total of 10,000 people, assuming that not a single one of them is an overlap. Right? 100 times, you got 10,000 people in a country of 27 million. You can create a comprehensive echo chamber in which you don't know anyone who knows anyone that disagrees with you. And you are living inside a fraction of a percentage of the Australian population. right? And this is a real and serious problem now that we have the internet and social media algorithms feeding us what is going to keep us on the algorithm, on the platform. The only priority of a social media platform is to keep you on it. And it observes your behavior. It observes what you like, what you don't like, what you comment on, what you interact with, and it figures out how to bait you into staying on there.
Yes.
And for most of us, sorry.
No, I agree with you. Yeah.
Oh, no, okay. And so for most of us, what that is being fed a steady diet of things that we agree with an occasional thing for us to be made angry by. That's the psychological profile of a typical social media person. And that is the mix of salt and pepper that a social media platform is trying to figure out and find for you. What is the topic that I need to feed you 6 things that you agree with and 1 thing that's going to make you angry? Then another 6 things that you agree with and another 1 thing that's going to make you angry, because that's the dopamine. That is the drug that keeps you on a social media platform. And so then you meet people and you're in chat rooms and you're in this and that, and you meet a bunch of people that are all being fed the same algorithm. You found the same chat room because you were directed there because the algorithm said, if I put this person in here, they're going to want to spend more time here. And before you know it, everyone you know agrees and everyone that they know agrees. And you think you're in this big, massive silent majority. And unfortunately, actually what you're inside is a little teeny tiny social media algorithm driven bubble. That's all you've got. Now, having said that, I think that a majority of Australians would be in Carly's position and not in mine. Right, I think a majority of Australians would agree that cutting mass immigration would be good. A majority of Australians would agree with that, and I think a majority of Australians, though, would say we don't want to shut the borders, but we need to slow down. I think that is the majority position. I accept that I'm in the minority position, but I've been that all my life. I literally can't think of a single time when I've argued for something at the time when it was the majority position. Some of what I've argued for has become the majority position later, but at the time when I was standing up, it wasn't. Because largely speaking, I don't see any point speaking up for the majority. It's already the majority. It's already, I don't add value there. I'm not here to just cultivate an audience and say, hey, everybody, look at me, come over here. As much as my haters love to say that that's what I'm doing, I actually don't. I really, really genuinely don't care. I want to speak up on the things that matter. My objective in speaking up is to have a clear conscience, is to have done what I believed was right under the circumstances. And that means speaking up when it's unpopular. So I accept that I'm in that position again. Right, in the chat here on this stream, in the Australian population at large, all the rest of it, I completely accept that I'm in the minority. But also, let's keep perspective on the fact that each and every one of us, myself included, has algorithms around me that is trying to box me into a bubble. And unless you are consciously breaking out of that bubble, persistently, relentlessly breaking out of that bubble, the algorithm will succeed and put you in a bubble, and your perception of the world and how popular your ideas are is going to get warped by that. And that's true for each and every one of us.
What I find really interesting, I was just looking through the chat right now, and these people are essentially saying, you don't agree with this, so you're done. Like I blocked someone on Twitter the other day because they were trying to bait me because they're like, you won't speak up, you won't do it. I'm like, no, what you're saying is I won't say the words you want me to say, and you don't like that. When we talk about echo chambers, like, whether it's you, me, or people on the other side of the fence, we do this for long enough. I think, what have we hit now? Like 2,500 subs. You've almost got 100K. Like,
on YouTube,
sure, we'd make some content, and for the most part, it's like relatively common sensey, and the average person's like, yeah, I can get along with that. And then we get to a contentious issue like immigration. And I didn't know this, but so many people are experts all of a sudden. People that just all of a sudden woke up and just went, wow, I know everything about everything. Well, I don't need to introduce this to you guys, but there is a psychological thing called the Dunning-Kruger effect, where your cognitive bias makes you believe that you're far more intelligent on a subject than you are. And I can see this here in the chat. And I'm not trying to be disparaging. What I'm saying is, it is evident that you're not talking to people who disagree with you. Now, of course, it's a lot easier to find people who agree with you, because then you're like, yeah, we all agree. Yay. But there is an inherent danger in that. It means you underestimate your enemy, because if you surround yourself with sycophants, guess what? You've got no idea what the temperature's like on the other side. If you don't know what they're debating about or how they feel about certain topics, how can you debate them? How can you fight them? Metaphorically speaking, I'm not saying physically. And so what I have an issue with, and I mean, I call this out on the left all the time. I call this out with your Abby Chatfields, your Clem Fords, particularly around the Palestine stuff, right? these people surround themselves with people who agree with them. And Abby has a bunch of sycophants under her, right?
Yep.
Now, mark my words, that is a really dangerous thing to do as a content creator because inevitably your audience will turn on you. So it's better as you're growing to have these moments where people can see, oh, you know what, you're human. Or I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if I like Carl swearing. I like her 80% of the time, but when she goes off and starts swearing, I don't like her on that. Cool.
80% is a good number. 80% is a good number because it means that you've found your tribe, and we are a tribal species, and we, there is safety in tribes and all the rest of this. That's not an inherently evil thing, but it also means that you haven't cultivated a monoculture. And if you have a 20% disagreement with the vast majority of people that you know, then that means amongst them, you're going to get challenged on almost every idea that you have, because that 20% of disagreement is going to differ.
Have a look at this comment. I've lost all respect. Okay, cool. Well, then that actually means you didn't respect me at all. That's the point I'm trying to make. You never respected me. You only liked me when I said what you wanted to hear. And the second we disagreed, you decided I've lost all respect for you.
So this is what I learned the first time the farmers turned on me, when I stopped talking only about water and I started introducing a second issue, which in this case was censorship. Was, I think, my very second issue was free speech. And had farmers going, "Oh, it's so disappointing. I used to respect all the research that you did and all the work that you put in, and you knew your subject so well, but now I realize you're just an idiot." I'm like, no. What that tells me is that you don't respect my level of research. You don't think I put effort in. You don't actually think that I have insight, because the minute your words were no longer coming out of my mouth, the moment you heard something that wasn't what you would have said, you then dismissed all of that. If you actually respected my insight, my research, my level-headedness, and whatever else it was that they said, then when I said something you disagreed with, you would have gone, "Oh, well, that's a bit weird. I'll have a read. I'll have a look. Like, this guy's not an idiot. I'll at least listen to what that would be the reaction if you actually respected me." And so, comments like that, "Oh, I used to respect you, but blah, blah, blah." Well, no, you didn't. You
never respected me.
Yeah, you liked hearing your words come out of my mouth. That's all that ever was.
I'm going to show you this comment here, because since people are going off in the chat, fine. You guys can sit here all day and question my intellectual capacity. That's fine. When people resort to ad hominem attacks, it tells me you have the intellectual depth of a puddle, because you can't debate me on the issues. You just want to insult my intelligence, the way I look. I instantly dismiss you. So goodbye, whatever.
Carls.
Stop reading the comments.
Stop reading the comments. Okay.
Isn't that what we're meant to do? We're meant to be reading super chat.
Listen, Carly, listen to the other Carly. All right. Carly, listen to Carly.
I will
now, David,
say this as what. Sorry, go.
Sorry. No, you go.
I was going to say that there's a lot of nastiness in the comments tonight. We don't normally get this. So I'm assuming there's a lot of people coming over here. I want to bring this up quickly. I know you got a comment there. I blocked this dude on X. I blocked this guy because he was basically saying that I don't speak up, but I won't say what he wants, and then just kept trying to bait me. And you know what? I don't need this shit from you guys. If you want to say stuff, start your own X feed. Start a channel. Go on.
So there are people that debate you and they want to have a conversation about whatever, and there are people that just want to debate everyone, like they just do it en masse, and I call them a mass debater, and I don't give them a lot of attention.
Anyway,
so Topher, are you a post-nationalist? Just curious. I'm actually not. And this is something that a lot of people really struggle to wrap their minds around. I'm not. I think actually, if we're going to have a government, okay, and I'm actually becoming more of a minarchist, and I'm not so sure that we need one pretty much at all, and pure voluntarism is a better way to go. But we have a government, and by definition, that government has a turf. Sort of, it's street wars basically. They have a turf. They are the one organization in the world that has a mandate to act on behalf of a certain set of people. I would despise any company, for example, that said, "Oh, we're not going to serve black people, or we're not going to serve people from that country, or we're not going to serve women," or whatever. I would despise any company that made that choice. I think that's disgusting. But any country, any government that serves anyone other than the people within its turf is betraying the people within its turf. So no, I'm not a post-nationalist. What I refuse to do is associate a nationality with a skin color. So to me, what defines the Western ideal, what defines England, the Westminster system, and I'm talking not England now, that is a fallen country. We'll talk about why that is and how we can avoid that fate. England is a fallen country. That's true. And yes, immigration did that. Immigration is destroying the UK. But that doesn't mean that we need to just put a ban on immigration here in Australia. We'll get there. But what the UK was an idea. It was a belief. And it was in particular a belief that the law is king, everyone is subject to the law. That was a revolutionary idea at one time. For most of human history, if you were the king or the dictator or the warlord, you were above the law. You were the law. You could do whatever you wanted. And unless they could fight you and kill you in one-on-one, combat and challenge you for the top job, then there was nothing anyone could do about it. In England, they said, no, Rex Lex, the law is king. That was a revolutionary idea. Handing parliamentary power to people. Initially, it was the House of Lords. It was the landowners. It was an extension of the feudal system. But then they went further than that, and they actually had the House of Commons, which was called such because commoners could get in there. And they handed increasing amounts of power across to the population. The reintroduction of this concept of human rights and natural law, this idea that actually you have rights that are innate to your existence as a human being. Now, they're extracted from the Bible. That is the genesis of that in the modern expression that we have today. That's not a universal thing. This idea that you as a creature have a certain dignity, a certain set of rights that other people cannot violate. This is not a universal thing that human society has always had. That is what defines the Australia that I know and love. And I don't see a skin color anywhere in that. So what I object to is people saying, oh, well, we have to, okay, fine, we can have Europeans, immigrants coming over, they'll integrate, okay, but we can't have people from India or we can't have people from Africa or these sorts of things. History has shown time and again, every time there's a wave of immigration, Australians have gone, oh no, these people they're not going to integrate. That happened with the Chinese that came over in the gold rush. I'm talking 1800s. That happened with the post-World War I. Well, it happened with a little bit with the 2-pound poms or the 10-pound poms, whatever they were after World War I. But certainly after the Second World War with the Italians and the Greeks, right? You could smell the garlic. You hear the stories. I grew up hearing these stories from old people about how you could smell the garlic from the ships before they'd even arrived at the dock and all these kinds of comments. And they were, they're going to have street wars. It's going to be the Italians versus the Greeks and everything else. And yeah, they had a crime wave. They had a youth crime wave associated with that round of immigration. Nowadays, the people who are anti-immigration are saying, oh, but not the Greeks and Italians. They're fine. Well, hang on. At the time when they arrived, people said about them the exact same thing that these people are now saying about Sudanese or whatever else. The same thing happened with the Vietnamese. Post the Vietnam War, obviously there was a lot of animosity, a lot of feeling, and understandably so. And we had a wave of Vietnamese immigrants, mostly people that had to flee out of Vietnam or were refugees post-war because they were sympathizers. They worked with the Americans and with the Australians in Vietnam. And the same thing happened again. People said there's going to be the crime wave. They're not going to integrate. Their culture is too different. It's hopeless. Now we eat Vietnamese food and chat casually with the Aussie-sounding Vietnamese person that works in our office, right? Who is every bit as Aussie as us. If you couldn't see their face, they'd be every bit as Aussie as you are in their attitudes and everything else. The same thing is going to happen with the people that are integrating now mostly. Mostly. There is a difference now. 1 second. Let me get my brand back up on the TV. So what's changed now, and because it is different this time, not the numbers, but what's changed now is every single one of those other groups, the expectation on them was you come here and you work your ass off. And guess what? They did. And there's a thing about having to work. Where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. This is a universal principle. It's in the book of Proverbs as well. But if you have to work and earn and build and sweat, then you end up loving that thing. Things that are hard work, you actually end up loving more than the things that came to you easily. And so having to work and to earn and to live in a given country is going to cause you to love that country a lot more than if everything was handed to you for free. Secondly, you have to get along with other people. If you're going to have a business, if you're going to be employed, you can insulate yourself, a certain degree, but the vast majority of people are going to end up working with English-speaking people. They have to learn the language. They end up making friends. They get exposed to the footy and the barbecues and these other things. And they very quickly get exposed to Australian culture. And then ultimately their children are a part of Australian culture. What's changed now is that it's possible to be an immigrant or a refugee and go straight onto welfare and you never have to do the work. That is a serious problem of incentives. And that is where we're ending up with the people that we don't want. And that is how we fix it, is by changing the incentives. But I've been talking for a long time. So I'm going to hand back over to you, and I'm going to come back to talking about incentives when it's my turn next.
So I actually, before we jumped on, I went on and did a extensive amount of research to get all the numbers. And
right,
the number one thing about data is you can skew it any way you like. You can omit things, you can paint a really broad brush. At the end of the day, I'm a big believer in what can I see with my own eyes. And I believe right now, a lot of the people we have brought in recent years are responsible for an uptick in crime. And I'm speaking now specifically about the youth crime. And obviously, people over 18 are committing this crime too. Most recently, let's have a look at what happened last night. 5 Sudanese men broke into a home in Kew and stabbed a man in the face multiple times. One was 24. The other 2 that were caught was a 16 and a 17-year-old. And those two kids under 18, guarantee will be out on bail tomorrow, because that is the precedent our government is setting. Now, 2 things. I am not saying all Sudanese are committing youth crime, but a big percentage of them that are committing crime are Sudanese, right? There's a distinction there. So that tells me there's a couple of things. There's a cultural issue. Now, the interesting thing, because I went and looked this up. All right. So we've known there's been an African crime problem gang crime problem in Victoria for a while. Daniel Andrews famously speaking out about it, condemning everyone, saying we were xenophobic and racist for calling this out, even though African community leaders, and I brought up Jerry before, were speaking about this. Now it's at a point.
Not just him. A lot of them were screaming out for help.
And now this has gotten to a point where the government has been letting these people get away with it. Now the crime's escalating. First, it was home invasions, stealing car keys and stealing cars. Now it's maiming people with machetes. It's stabbing people. And you said this, and I've been calling this for months. The next thing, people die. That's where we're at. We had someone lose a hand because a 14-year-old with a machete attacked him in broad daylight over an iPhone. Now, this is a government issue. Yes, the immigrant, or many of them are immigrants. Why the fuck is the government not laying the law on these people? That's the question. Now, you can be mad at the immigrants for committing the crimes, certainly. But why is our own government, Jacinta Allen, not doing anything about it? Her knee-jerk reaction was $13 million to build some machete bins. That was her saying, hey, look, I did a thing. And also, myself and G, we want to go do a Freedom of Information request and figure out who got the contract for those bins. I just want to know. I just want to break down the numbers. I just want to see. I guarantee the whole thing will be redacted. But on the youth crime thing, because this one I'm passionate about, because no one should be in fear of being stabbed in their fucking house. No one. The fact this is happening is disgusting. And it's not the immigrants who are letting these little fucking kids get away with it. It's Jacinta Allen. It's your white woman. So you're mad at the wrong people. Jacinta Allen lays the law down that the magistrates are following. She's white, if you didn't notice. And so are all her fucking bleeding hearts that sit there in Parliament. Now, a couple of things. The petition about the Castle Law, David Limbrick and I are working on. I lodged that petition. Go and look. That's my address on the thing. Now, that currently has just under 6,000 signatures. I'm sorry, what? This is one of the biggest issues Victorians are facing. We have, 5 million, 6 million people in Victoria? And that petition has 6,000 signatures?
This is the apathy you were talking about.
Something is not adding up. So people want to sit here in the fucking comment threads and go, oh, what are you doing? You're just talking on YouTube. I'm the one that lodged the petition. I'm the one that was on the Parliament steps last week. Where were you? You weren't doing it. You didn't lodge the petition. Now, I sat there with David Limbrick, and he went into Parliament that day to go and debate it, and it lost 18-17. Guess who was the breaking vote? Animal Justice Party. Right? Why?
Justice
Do you know
for
what
every
their
animal
reason
except
was?
for humans.
Do you know what their reason was? This is Trump-style policies. That's what all of your majority white Labor MPs and Green MPs said. I need to say it again for all of you neo-Nazis in the chat. They're all white.
Yep.
They all voted against you having the right to clearly, defined in law, defend yourself in your own home. But you're blaming all the immigrants. Like, this is the wild thing about it. I agree. I'm in disagreement with Topher about immigration. I believe we need to slow it down really quick. But you're sitting here blaming all of the criminals. They're only doing what they get away with. And if they didn't get away with it, they wouldn't be doing it. Now, one more thing, because I know I've been talking.
Sure.
I went and had a look at what the punishment was for aggravated burglary in Sudan. So let me read this to you. Now, just for
this is interesting. This would be good.
Just for the sake of this chat, I am no legal scholar, and also I got this for Googling today. So this may be inaccurate, but this is based on the government of Sudan's website. So in Sudan, they have something called a cross amputation law. Article 168 of Sudan's penal code prescribes death or crucifixion. I didn't know we did that in 2025, but hey, it's written in the Sudanese law for armed robbery causing murder or rape. So just to make that clear, in Sudan, if you commit an armed robbery that results in someone dying or getting raped, the response from the state is death or crucifixion.
Which is fatal, by the way.
But just in case you didn't know, you don't come back from a crucifixion unless you're Jesus.
Yes.
Before I make my point, my final point. Now, cross amputation, this is what they say. That is a right hand and a left foot. So you lose this guy and that. So you don't just lose one or the other, you lose both. So it's called a cross amputation. This is for people who commit armed robbery causing grievous bodily harm and lesser penalties for lesser harm. So just to remind you guys, in case you haven't been watching the news this week, a bunch of Sudanese went into a house in Kew and stabbed a man in the face multiple times. They were beating him with a hammer because, of course, machetes are banned, guys. So we've got to use hammers now. We'll get hammers banned next. We'll have hammer amnesty bins. Yeah. So if they did that exact crime in Sudan, they'd lose their right hand and their left foot. That's a pretty permanent injury. You know what they get in Australia? Bail. Whilst we're funding their fucking refugee visas and they're getting welfare. And you know who you can blame for that? Jacinta Allen. You're welcome, just so you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, thank you. You've argued a lot of my point for me. And I don't disagree with any of that. We are way too soft on crime. I'm not sitting here as a bleeding heart, right? But I believe in judging individuals by their actions, and I believe in being genuinely colorblind when doing so. So in addition to what you've just said, everything you've just said is true. But also in the last week, we had the discovery of a double murder, actually a triple murder because the woman was pregnant, and the man's head had been severed and stuck on a spike. And that was done by a homeless white guy. Right, that was in Melbourne, Ferntree Gully, I think that was.
No, it was in Glen Waverley.
Glen Waverley, thank you. Now, that's not to say like let's weigh one up against the other. It's just to say crime is crime. We need a government that is going to deal with crime and criminals. And if we have a government that's going to deal with crime and criminals, then it's going to deal with immigrant crime and immigrant criminals. Right? We solve the government problem of not dealing with crime, and we solve the immigrant problem. Right. And that's literally across the board. If we solve the problem, we solve the immigrant related aspects of the problem as well. So let me talk about the libertarian solution to immigration. So now this, to be clear, this is not the Libertarian Party's official position. This is my position as a principled libertarian. The Libertarian Party has to work a little bit more in the real world of what's politically palatable and what might actually get through Parliament and so forth. So they've had to take a position that's a bit more pragmatic. Open borders are not actually a problem unless you have bad incentives. If the incentives are right, then the right people will come and the wrong people will stay away. If the wrong people come, they will quickly leave again because they don't want to be there anymore. The incentives are such that they're like, oh, screw this for a joke, I'm out.
Yeah.
So there's two ways to control immigration. You can either not worry about what the incentives are and let them be as perverse and twisted as you want, and then use quotas and restrictions and controls. And then we're going to have a big argument about how many people are allowed in. We're going to have a big argument about different types of visas, how long people are staying for, how short, what about their families, can they come in? We have to have a big argument about immigration if we have perverse incentives. Now, the main perverse incentive in Australia is created by our welfare system. If you can get into Australia, you can freeload off Australians. That is morally wrong. I find that reprehensible. No human being, unless it is genuinely, absolutely necessary due to genuine disability, no human being should be freeloading off anyone. We should all be earning and paying our own way for as much of our life as we reasonably can. And so if we took away all the welfare, then a lot of these people would actually leave. And a lot of the ones coming over would choose not to. They would go somewhere else that is offering perverse incentives, or they would stay where they are. If the message was, who was it who explored the South Pole? It was was it Amundsen, I think, or was it Scott? It might have been Scott. Put an ad in the British newspaper where he said, men wanted for an expedition, hunger guaranteed, cold guaranteed, pay poor, chance of death likely, apply here. He got hundreds of applications, hundreds of people applying for what was going to be 20, 30 people on that, right? He created a negative ad in order to attract high caliber people. He said, this is going to be hard. You'll probably die. You'll certainly get cold. There's all kinds of suffering going to be involved. If you're okay with that, come and apply, right? Now, in Australia, what we're saying is, if you want free stuff, free healthcare, even though you've never paid into our socialized healthcare system, instant money, houses, chain migration, all the rest of it. If you want the cushy life, come to Australia. That's the message we're sending right now. Yep. And guess what? We're getting a bunch of freeloaders, a bunch of people who don't want to work, a bunch of people who feel entitled, and a bunch of, as you've rightly pointed out, absolute asshole, violent criminals. Are we surprised? Are we surprised? No. But what if we turn the incentives around? They said, number one, forget welfare for 10 years. There's none of it. None of it for you for 10 years. You get your citizenship first. Number two, you get involved in any kind of violent crime or any kind of property crime above a certain threshold, you're out. The minute we'll make you do your time, we'll make you do your sentence, and then you're out and you're never coming back. What if we actually said, come here, if you're going to work your ass off, if you are going to find a way to add value to this country, to pay your own bills, to earn so that you can provide for your own family, to do all the right things, what if that was our message to these people? Yeah. What kind of people would we get then? Well, actually, interestingly, we already get quite a few of those people. Let's not forget, there's a lot of migrants who come over here. And I love it when anti-immigration people say to me, oh, they're taking our jobs. Oh, hang on. You mean they've just arrived in this country and they went and they started working so that they could earn money and pay for their own expenses. And they're actually also paying taxes. That kind of sounds to me like exactly the thing that we want them to be doing. Oh, every business in my area is run by an immigrant. Okay, so they've come over, they've come up with an idea, they've invested money, they've brought money with them. They might be employing people, they're providing goods and services, they're living by whether or not they can figure out how to provide value to others or not. And this is a bad thing. How? These are exactly the people that built Australia. These are exactly the kinds of Greeks and Italians that we look back on and go, man, in one generation, they got richer than Aussies. They worked their asses off. They were concreters and brickies and this and that. They worked their asses off. Well, guess what? The same thing is happening right now with a bunch of Sudanese. I had someone in my comments on on today's video saying, well, the doctor in my local area is Sudanese. Good. Okay, fantastic. My daughter's got a couple of just minor eye issues and things. She sees a Sudanese doctor who's fantastic, by the way. We absolutely love her. Her manner with the kids is fabulous, and she's very, very careful. She listens. She actually pays attention to you, unlike a lot of doctors. And so, I'm sorry, that's exactly what we want. The problem right now is that the incentives that we have created attracts the freeloaders, the ingrates, the people who are never going to be grateful no matter what we do for them, the people who think that they can do whatever they want and bring whatever trouble with them. That's who we're attracting because of our welfare state and our soft, because we the bleeding heart nonsense. If we fix the incentives, tell them you're coming here to work. You're coming here for 10, 15, 20 years of hell as you completely set up your life in a new country with no one to help you. But if you get it right and you do it, then your children will have a better future than what you ever had. If we say to them, we offer you blood, sweat, and tears and instant deportation if you step out of line by far enough, then we will only get the ones that we want.
I agree with you, but there's a couple of things that I've just seen pop up here. One is, so most of these immigrants are coming here to be Uber Eats drivers. And then this one here, jobs are being offshore. There's a couple of things I want to touch on that people seem to forget. Again, you have free will. People will simultaneously say there's no jobs whilst also declining the jobs they don't like. So when people say all Indians are Uber Eats drivers, well, because they take the job. You could take the job. You don't. Yeah. And I get it. Yeah. You don't want to be an Uber Eats driver. Okay, well, don't be mad that someone takes up that job. Same with this. Jobs are being offshored. Yes. Do you know why? Because people are lazy and governments aren't going to employ people that aren't making them money. This is business 101. Businesses need to be profitable, particularly in a country like Australia where you're getting taxed into extinction. But there's one clear defining thing here that no one seems to have come up with in the comments yet is you could start a business. And I want to tell you a really good story.
Sure.
This is a client of mine recently. So when you talk about jobs being going overseas, there are actually job shortages. There's two stories I'm going to tell you. One really quickly. My partner cannot get staff. Cannot get staff. He is desperate for staff. And the last couple of staff who have come in for a trial or put in a resume, they don't know the basics. So I'm not going to say what he does because there's too many haters in the chat.
To be clear, what I will say is when you say they don't know the basics, you're not saying they don't know the basics of that particular industry or specialty, because I've heard the stories. They don't know the basics of workplace etiquette.
Correct. They are unemployable. They don't even know that they need to rock up to work on time. Yeah. Now, that's a whole other chat about Gen Z. But these are people who our government has now given us mental health days, sick days, all these extra benefits. Now, you guys can argue that we need those. That's fine. But you know who's not asking for mental health days? Migrants. They don't ask for that. They get there, they get down and fucking work. Now, I'm going to tell you this story. Just on that, my partner can't get staff. He's desperate. So you tell me that there's no jobs. I know plenty of people who have jobs. It's just people don't want to get their hands dirty. What they want is the cushy job on the government purse where they have to do the bare minimum and they still get paid. And I can tell you this because all of this working from home talk, people are celebrating it. Yeah. We want to work from home. We don't want to go to the office anymore. Okay, fine. And then you get mad that the business goes, well, we can't survive if our productivity drops. And you've just made a comment on this, and I know you're about to do a video on it, on how Anthony Albanese is now doing an audit on Australia's productivity. So this is the issue, that you guys can't see the bigger picture. Australia is declining productivity. We're not doing enough. We've got people that want to have all this sick leave. They want all these extra rates, but yet they get mad when the business puts their prices up to be able to pay all these penalty fees. And now people get angry that cafes aren't open on a Sunday because that cafe can't afford to pay that 20-year-old barista $55. And then you get mad that people charge surcharges. No, go.
Sorry, I'm trying not to interrupt you. People keep on complaining that I interrupt you a lot, but to me, it's just part of the banter. But anyway, there was a comment that you put up. There was a comment that you put up a minute ago about jobs being offshored, complaining about jobs being offshored. Yes, you bet they're being offshored. And guess what? If you prove to your boss that you can do your job from home, they're going to start wondering whether they need an Australian to do that job. And let me tell you something. That isn't just about saving money. The attitude of the people that I have working for me right now in the Topher project, so I've been expanding my team and trying to grow. I'm shooting for the stars now. The attitude of my team in the Philippines, there's 3 of them, is amazing. Let me give you an example. I start work usually at, sort of shortly after 6 o'clock in the morning. And they're not supposed to start work until 9 o'clock Australian time, which is 7 o'clock their time. At shortly after 8 o'clock my time, 6 o'clock their time, my phone buzzes and one of them sent me a message. She had a quick question for me and she was starting work early. And I replied and I said, why are you working now? You don't need to start work for another hour. And she said, I wasn't happy with where I got to on Friday last week, so I wanted to start early to get up to where I thought I was going to, I wanted to be on Friday. That was just an automatic thing. Then come 9 o'clock, I have a group video call. It's a Monday morning. Let's get the whole team on the video call. The other two sign on.
Sorry to interrupt you. This comment, all you talk about is business and money. I'm a business owner. Thanks. Yeah, that's kind of what I do.
Economics a lot. Yeah. Bye.
Like, that's our channel. Bye.
Yeah. So the other two log on and we're chit chatting, but the girl who checked in with me an hour earlier hadn't logged on. And I was like, maybe she thinks she doesn't need to get on this particular call. So I sent her a message and said, hey, can you jump on the call? I just want to get the whole team together. We're just going to have a chat about our weekend and what do we do? What do we get up to? And, touch base and, sort of touch grass, so to speak, as a team. And so she logged on because she'd misunderstood. She logged on and she was in essentially an open air bus that they have in the Philippines. It's a little motorized scooter outdoors. And she showed me the bus was being driven through floodwaters about that deep. And she said, I'm so sorry. I'm moving to an internet cafe because the internet at my apartment dropped out because of these floods. Now, you tell me what Australian worker is going to log on an hour early on a Monday just because she wasn't happy where she got to on the Friday, then is going to have the internet in her building drop out at a time when there are floods in the streets around her house. And her decision, her automatic decision without me saying a damned thing is, I better get down to an internet cafe so I can get some work done today. It's not just about the money.
Yeah.
They are grateful. They are not entitled. They recognize that they get paid because they are productive and they add value to the business, and they're focused on doing that. That's why jobs are getting offshored.
Yeah.
It's not just about the money. So unfortunately, a lot of people are sitting there going, oh, yeah, I get to work from home. And the very next month is going to be, oh, dear, I've lost my job.
Yeah. Just this comment here, Carly, have you ever done business with Indians? Yes, a lot of business, actually. They pay really well and they usually pay cash. So thank you for that. And they spend a lot with my partner. They spend a lot of money. So, yeah, we take business from anyone. You know who doesn't ask for a discount? A lot of the migrants. Aussies, though, they'll bleed you dry.
I'm
so
mindful.
Just on that,
okay, yeah. But then after you say whatever you got to say, we're going to get back to some of these super chats because I don't think we've put them up for a little while.
No, we haven't. Sorry. So I just want to tell you this story. And this is a story for all of you Australians watching right now who think it's impossible to start a business in Australia, who think everything's going against you. And yeah, I'm a business owner. My partner's a business owner. Topher's a business owner. Trust me, we get it. That's all I spoke about during COVID. So I want to tell you of a story about a man who came from Brazil to Australia just 2.5 years ago. He lived in the slums. What do they call it? In Brazil,
favela.
The favela.
Favela.
He's from there, right? Dirt poor, nothing. Came to Australia with his wife. Didn't speak a word of English, not a word, and came here just as everyone was coming out of lockdown and all that sort of stuff. And he made it his mission to learn English as quickly as possible. Now, obviously, he had to get a job. So the only job he could get was as a cleaner because he couldn't speak English. And he happened to find a cleaning agency that was run by a Portuguese man, and he got a job. And his job was to literally go around Melbourne and clean a lot of the public toilets. Now, that is a job I guarantee most of you guys in the chat wouldn't do. Just on this one here, here's a sob story. You tell me, would you do this job? Because I bet you fucking wouldn't. I love trolling these people. They're like, meh. And I'm like, yeah, but as soon as you had to do the thing, you'd be like, oh, no, I can't do that. That's Anyway.
That's beneath me.
So, you know those toilets that are fully self-contained and they're meant to wash themselves and all that? Well, they still do get cleaned. So that was his job. And you can imagine some of the shit he saw, literally, gross. So he was working for this company for a little while and he realized that there was some issues with the company. He wasn't able to get good communication back and forth, and it was very disorganized, and he was getting frustrated because he couldn't do that, right? He wasn't the business owner. And the business owner, for whatever reason, wasn't running the business great and was struggling. And then my friend, the Brazilian guy, said, I'm going to try and do this myself. And so he started a business with just him and his wife. And he went to local businesses and said, I'm a cleaner. And he started earning, shit money, and slowly. And then sure enough, as he's doing that, he's watching as much as he can to learn English. He speaks all right English, but like it's broken, obviously.
Yeah.
But relatively good for someone who's only learned it for like, a couple of years.
2.5 years, yeah.
So he took an opportunity where he saw a hole in the market and went, I'm going to build a business. And this is literally in the last 2 years. How much do you reckon he turned over this year so far? So what are we? 18th of August this year.
Okay, so give me 2 clues because I know that cleaning can be lucrative. Does he still work by himself?
No.
Okay, so he's got staff. Okay, so that allows him to scale a lot further. And has he branched out of commercial, or is he still just doing commercial?
He is only doing commercial, but they are looking at doing residential. Yeah.
Okay, commercial's where the real money is. So that was actually a question to see whether he'd had to kind of go low in the market. If he's just doing commercial, I'm gonna hazard a guess that he's turned over $1 million.
Keep going.
2 million?
Keep going.
5?
4.5.
Good on him. that's a
you
shit
guys tell me
business.
there's not opportunities in this country. And do you know what he said?
Yeah.
This is the thing. Because I was like, all right, tell me, because these are the stories I hear when I'm photographing people. So we're going back and forth. And I was like, all right, so how did you get there? What did you do? And I'm an entrepreneur, and I know you guys hate the business chat, but that's kind of what I talk about. So whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah. So, and he said to me, he's like, he would go to the big office buildings or the big companies where they had, they just needed someone to go in there and empty the bins, wipe things down, clean the benches in the communal areas. And he's like, a lot of the Australian companies do the absolute bare minimum because what they want, they go in there promising everything. They get these companies on a retainer and then the service drops because that's how you run a big business. So he went into these places saying, I can do this, this, and this, and this. And he built a system. So he started building this it's not an app, but like a system where he was able to track the workers and make sure that they hit all the things. And something as simple as if there's 20 dustbins that need to be emptied, he made sure all 20 got emptied and he'd count them.
Which not everyone does.
It was attention to detail. That's how we got the tenders. And so now he was able to go for bigger and bigger tenders, and now he works for some really big office towers in the city. And that's where obviously it's quite lucrative. But those companies already had cleaners. He was able to take the business by just doing the 1%ers, which is brilliant. Like, I love those stories, and anyone could do that.
After we look at some super chats, I want to talk about culture, because that's one thing people might go, oh, Topher, fine, the numbers, we should be able to build fast enough, blah, blah, blah. But it's about culture. So I definitely want to get there tonight. But we've got some very, very patient super chatters that have been waiting for a very long time. Found Hope says a very large number of residential property being purchased by private equity firms, super funds, and other big companies since 2008. Would forcing the sale of these and banning future ownership to only citizens help? So I would argue that this is another example of something that, yes, would help the symptoms in the short term, but doesn't fix the underlying problem. The reason why big investment firms are getting into property is because government is artificially restricting supply so that values are pretty much guaranteed to always climb. In America, for example, it's not a guarantee that if you buy a house, it's going to go up in value. Because they don't really restrict land release and they allow the market to just kind of sort it out. The values of properties, if you happen to buy in an area that then becomes fashionable, yes, you can get some huge capital growth. But actually, by and large, housing values just kind of plod along for most of the US, most of the time. There are some moves now and then. So why the difference? Well, because in the US, by and large, the government does not artificially restrict supply. Maybe in certain areas, there might be, historical districts with restrictions on new developments or height restrictions or that sort of stuff. But as a continent, there's really no limit, right? People are developing and subdividing and everything all of the time. And so they don't have this issue necessarily of a shortage of housing for sale because all the institutional investors are buying it up. Now, they do still have institutional investors, but that's usually to try and get rental returns. They're buying apartment buildings or large sort of rental districts, so to speak. So this issue here, we could pass a law and say, hey, you have to sell it off and no, institutions aren't allowed to buy any more of them. That would temporarily drop prices, and then the same trend would set back in. because fundamentally what's happening in our market is being driven by the government artificially restricting supply. Can we get the government to stop doing that? Well, that's an entirely different question, because that's actually going to be a very unpopular thing for them to do, because they all own investment properties. Their donors own investment properties and made money in property, and they do not want to let go of that very, very lucrative bucket of money.
But of course.
Yes.
We've got a couple of super chats, but I just want to check. Guys, are you that jaded that you just can't handle a story for longer than a second? Like, your attention spans have been rotted by social media. We're allowed to tell a story that's,
Rob,
I apologize that we're not doing like little TikToks for you.
Yeah. Rob, you would not have survived my slow chats during COVID. Trust me.
Actually, there's a lot of new people on this chat, but this is actually a big part of my research, is looking at what the social media algorithms are doing to us. Now, obviously, I'm looking particularly at beauty standards, but the data's the same thing. The way they are rewiring our brains so that we actually don't have attention spans. This is all very deliberate, right? The great thing is that our brains are very plastic the whole way through our lives, so we can relearn and unlearn, which is wonderful. But the way, like, we are being programmed to only be able to handle 5 to 10 to 15-second clips of social media. We actually can't handle. And a good example of this is the music industry. Most young people now I know there's going to be a lot of people going, well, I don't do that. Well, maybe it doesn't target you, but a lot of young people now only know clips of songs. They don't know a full song. They only ever hear the bridge or the chorus in a TikTok. That's where we're at now. People can't actually take on anything longer than that. That's all part of the study. It's very interesting.
Yep. So I don't actually know what primal on Nostr is. Sorry, I'm not a tech guy at all. I am 44 years old going on 80. But he says using primal on Nostr without an algorithm. So I'm assuming this is some way of seeing either social media or search engines or something that actually just gives you the raw results rather than the kind of the curated results. So Sim, I'd love for a bit more info on that. Sorry, I can't give you anything insightful. Carly, can you?
No, sorry, I wasn't familiar with that. We have a really big super chat here. Are you pulling it up or am I?
Okay, let me get through this one first. Don't worry, Carl's a lot of left-wing trolls on here tonight with nothing better to do. They never have anything better to do.
I don't actually think they're left-wing guys. I think they're the opposite. I think they're the right-wing ones.
Oh, no, there are some fascists really angry at us too, but that's just part of the course.
Do you know what, though?
Yeah.
G says this to me all the time. He goes, you're over target if you're really upsetting both sides. I'm like,
well, yeah, and another way to say the same thing is if you throw a rock, the dog that barks is the one that got hit, right? So I threw a rock at the protest organizers, and the dog that barked was the Noticer, which is the fascist newspaper in Australia. And the guy that wrote the hit piece against me has been arrested for his activities with the National Socialist Network, the neo-Nazis in Australia. So I threw a rock and the neo-Nazis barked. Just saying.
Yeah. I'm sorry, guys. You never see me standing with them, so cry about it.
Yeah. All right. So which one were you going to bring up? You go for it.
This one here. But this guy's been trolling me all night, so I'm very confused by this super chat. Okay, I'm going to answer this and you can go. I'll try to be quick. All right, so you both talk about being prepared
don't try to be quick. Go for it.
Okay. You both talk about people being prepared to work for nothing without a union. We would be working 7 days a week and children would be employed as minors. Remember that. Why do you guys take everything to the extreme? I say something like, the majority of people are unproductive at work, and you think I mean we need children going and mining cobalts. Like, did I say that? I don't understand this way of thinking. She disagreed with me. She must mean this. Like, chill out. Fucking hell. Sorry, let me finish this quickly. I can say this as someone who has employed people and someone who works with majority business clients who also employ people. Unfortunately, a lot of people want to do the bare minimum. And I talk about this a lot, and I know there's a lot of new people on this chat who may have not listened to the podcast before. But I champion meritocracy. I want people to be incentivized to be fucking amazing. And I hate this culture of apathy of she'll be right and do the bare minimum. I hate it. I hate how people are like, Please get degrees that do the absolute smallest amount possible so that you can be lazy. I don't like that. I loved it when we were proud of whatever job I don't give a fuck what your job is. Just be fucking proud and put your effort into it. You know, like whether you're a chippy, whether you're someone that's an engineer, whether you're a doctor, a photographer, I don't care what you do. Just be good at it. Have passion. And I miss passion. I feel like most people now rock up to get a paycheck and piss off. And I talk about a little project that I'm doing. This is tangent time. You ready? Go for it.
Tangent time. Oh, I've got a strep in my mouth. I nearly spat it. Hang on.
Don't joke.
Wardrobe malfunction. Wardrobe malfunction. All right, we ready? Tangent time. Tangent time. Tangent time. Go for it.
For those who are new here, that'll make no sense. I talked about a little project that I'm working on, and I've called it Chicken in the Noodle Aisle. And this is where I get all arty-farty wanker, so fuck the comments are going to go off the chain now. This project is something that I have just been interested in because I hate laziness, right? So I go to different supermarkets. I'm a bit of a supermarket slut. I'll go to Aldi, I go to Woolies, go to Coles. Don't always go to the same one either. I go to the one that's closest to me because it just makes more sense.
Yeah.
And one day I was
supermarket you love the supermarket you can go to. Is that how that works?
Well, I'm just like, well, the Woolies is there. I'll just go there. Whereas G's the opposite. It's like, let's go to the one that we always go to. I'm like, there's one right there. Anyway.
I'm with G.
Well, look, I like to be multicultural with my supermarket. Anyway, I was literally in the supermarket one day, and I was in the the Asian food aisle where all the noodles were. And there was a pack of chicken just sitting there. And I looked at it, and I think it was like Hokkien noodles or something, and there's like chicken breasts. And I was like, oh, there's chicken in the noodle aisle. And then I was like, that's funny. Haha. Anyway, I took a photo because I'm a photographer. Yep. I don't know if you guys know this. There's a lot of new people here. That's literally what I do. I take photos. Anyway, I took a photo, didn't think much about it. And then the next day, I was back at the supermarket again because I'm also one of those people that goes to the supermarket every fucking day. I don't know why. It's just one of those ill fates that I have to deal with. Went to the supermarket and I saw a bag of cat litter in, I think it was the chocolate aisle. And I was like, that's a peculiar one. Like, oh, wow, I have to weigh up between chocolate or cat litter. Okay. And I know you've told the story where you saw broccoli in the chocolate aisle. Anyway, so my point is, I was seeing all these displaced objects across the supermarket. Now, for those of you who don't know, the supermarkets have to throw out the perishables. It doesn't matter how long it's been there. If the chicken's in the dry area, they're going to throw it out. And it just got me thinking, because once you notice something, it's the, what do you call it? The reticular activated system. You just keep seeing the same thing.
Yeah.
So you think of a red car, then you only see red cars. That's the part of your brain that notices those patterns. And so I was like, okay, I keep seeing this. I'm just going to start taking photos because I just thought it was funny. I was going to do nothing with it. Anyway, it's now gotten to the point where I have hundreds of photos across multiple supermarkets of just laziness, milk left in the toilet paper aisle, like random things. Oh, my favorite at the moment, I've seen this way too many times now, is people go to the donut section, pick up the Krispy Kremes, eat two, and then discard the rest of the packet in the supermarket, right? They're just helping themselves. So I presented this to a very established art person like last week who was in my, it was a guest lecturer. I said, I've got this funny project. What do you think of this project? And he's like, are you joking? This could be the part of a huge exhibition on inherent laziness. Like, you could write a PhD on this. And I'm laughing because that's where this started. It was just, I was noticing the laziness. And now I can't unsee it, just how lazy we are across the board. And I know people feel like I'm lecturing them. But, this is the thing. When you look at people doing the absolute bare minimum and then we turn around and look at each other going, why is Australia this way? We'll give you another example. Every time you drive past a construction site and you see the person with the stop, start or stop, go, whatever it is, how many of the times do you look at them and they're on their phone, right? We've got 19 people sitting there so that two guys can dig a hole and the person holding the stop and go signs like sitting here scrolling TikTok. right?
Yeah.
They're not actively engaged in their job. I'm not saying that's not a difficult job. I've never done it, can't comment. What I'm saying is, for the most part, even when people are at work, they're checked out. Now, if I was
Yeah.
a business owner, I'd be like, hey, you person that I'm paying to do a job, you're spending all your time on social media. I'm not paying you to do your job, to not do your job. And so here, old mate Stephen, I appreciate the super chat and I'm grateful for it. But like, stop thinking in such extremes. Like, it's not unfair for a business owner to expect the staff that's well remunerated for what they're doing to do the job. I'm not saying you have to be a slave. I'm not saying you should work 100-hour week and you keep putting words in my mouth. That's not what I said. What I'm saying is you should have pride in your work and feel proud of the effort you made that week. And if you don't feel proud, perhaps you're in the wrong job. Perhaps you're resenting that job and you need to find a different job. And you tell me, oh, there are no jobs. Everyone seems to find an excuse for every other thing except accountability and looking in the mirror. And if you don't like that, fucking cry about it. Don't watch the live stream.
All right. There you go. You've been served by Carly. Let me give my 2 cents worth on this. Stephen, I'm deeply disappointed that you would suggest employing children. Employing implies that I would pay them, and that is an absolutely reprehensible concept. No,
Topher has 3 at home that are currently his slaves.
That's right. So you both talk about people being prepared to work for nothing. Neither of us have talked about that. Without a union. Also, neither of us have talked about that. As a libertarian, I absolutely believe in freedom of association, which means if you want to unionize with other workers in your industry because you believe that's the best way forward, you absolutely have the right to do that. The only area where I would draw a line is at mandatory, right? It should never be made mandatory in order to participate in an industry or in a given work site to be a member of the union. For as long as it's voluntary, I've got no issue with unionism. Right? None whatsoever. So I think that's kind of, you're hearing certain things, and oftentimes people think in terms of a basket of goods. This is where a lot of people have made mistakes with me, obviously, when it comes to the immigration side of things. They go, oh, he's against taxation. He's against all the COVID nonsense. He's a climate change denier, whatever. He must also be anti-immigration because it's like this basket of goods. Well, no, that's not how life actually works. And so I'm a libertarian. I'm not a conservative. I'm not a business, advocate, whatever. I'm a libertarian. I believe in freedom. And that includes freedom of association and the freedom for you to unionize. But you're not free to then force the company to only employ people who are a part of the union. That's too far. To be working 7 days a week and children would be employed as minors. Remember that. Well, no, I'm not that old. But also, the unions love to claim credit for things that actually, as much as I really don't like him, because Henry Ford was a horrible guy in some ways, Henry Ford actually deserves a lot of the credit for this, because he did 2 things spectacularly well. He figured out how to increase productivity. The whole production line thing, the whole Henry Ford mythos. And I'm not just mouthing off here. I've read his book, My Life and Work. I have an over 100-year-old copy of his book, one of the original printings of his book, My Life and Work, which I've read from cover to cover. And like I said, yes, there's some stuff in his life that I find reprehensible. Nevertheless, you cannot argue the man was a genius when it came to business, and particularly to time and motion management, which is what efficiency is about when it comes to manufacturing. So he develops the production line, or he introduces the production line into automobile manufacturing. The production line technically had already been invented. He got the inspiration actually from butchers who used the hooks to hang carcasses on rails overhead. And he thought, well, hang on, what if I did that with my cars? And the carcass of the car, so to speak, moves through the factory. That's where it began. And in his book, he spends a great deal of time talking about all the different things he did to figure out how to make that steering wheel a little bit cheaper, to make this a little bit more efficient, to eliminate this part over here. Actually, it turns out we don't need that if we really do this other thing some other way. And he goes through the number of hours. He regularly tells you, at this point in my journey, I had reduced the number of man hours per vehicle down to this. And then later on in the story, I've now reduced the number of man hours per vehicle down to this. This is what productivity is. And his objective, and it's hard to conceptualize how world-changing this was. His objective was to get to the point where someone who worked in the factory making cars could afford to buy one of the cars. That was a key objective of his that he was working towards. That was a marker of success for him, because what that meant was that he was opening up the market. The automobile market now included pretty much every well-paid American. Every full-time employed American was going to be able to afford cars. So how do you get to that point? Well, number one, productivity. You need to reduce the number of man hours per vehicle required because that allows you to reduce the price. Number two, you need to actually pay your people well enough to be able to do that. They can't be living on a subsistence living. And he very quickly realized that as his factories got bigger, like the Ford factory became it was a suburb in and of itself, employed, I'm not going to say numbers, but it was vast numbers of people, in the tens of thousands of people employed there. You start having trouble recruiting. You start needing that many people, you start having trouble finding people. And so he had to figure out, what are the incentives that I can offer to people to get them to leave wherever they are and move hundreds of miles, move their families, change their entire lives to move here for the purpose of coming and working at the Ford factory, because he'd completely absorbed everybody he could get from the immediate area. He started building public transport because he had to get his workers in and out efficiently. He had to start solving a bunch of other problems, which he did at the Ford Motor Company's expense. He improved weekends, he improved working conditions, he improved pay substantially. He introduced a bunch of concepts like paid leave, holiday pay, that sort of stuff, as he had to go step by step figuring out, well, what do I do now? What do I do now? I still need more people. What do I do now? How do I make it even more attractive? And this is the key. If we can have this symbiotic relationship between workers becoming more efficient, more productive per hour, and employers having successful businesses that need more workers because the business is going really well, therefore they have to keep improving the conditions, that's where you get a radical improvement in the quality of life of workers. That's what we saw all through the steam age. Before the steam age, yes, 7-year-olds working in mines, 100%. You're absolutely right. It's disgraceful. But it was also necessary back then. They wouldn't have survived without it. The steam age, it allowed the worker to be more productive, which allowed the worker to be paid better, which meant that the worker had to be looked after better because these companies were starting to make a lot of money and they needed more workers. And one thing led to another. Unions have a place. If you want to be in one, you're welcome to be in one. But don't believe the propaganda that it's only because of unions. And if it weren't for unions, those greedy bosses would still have us working, 14-hour days, 7 days a week from the age of 8. That simply isn't historically the case at all.
I think a lot of people forget that people who start businesses usually do so out of passion. Like you could make those sweeping generalizations like, oh, they all want money, but why is everyone so mad that people want to earn money? I don't understand this.
You want money?
Well, like remember in the US when Elon all of a sudden started working with Trump, they're like, oh, these billionaires. It's like, why are you so like? What's wrong with that? He got off his ass. He built SpaceX and Tesla, and you're mad that he made money from it. Like it's groupthink, but a lot of it is like it's a weird socialist mentality. And these people say they're not socialist, but that's exactly what it is. You have something, I don't have it, so you must have got it through nefarious means, or you have something that I don't have, you must have been given, it's corruption, or maybe they just worked hard. Like, of course, there's examples of people extorting people, yes. But that's an example of, the minority. It's not the majority. Most people I know who start businesses have done so out of passion or seeing, I feel like I can do that better, or they've invented something or whatever, and they enjoy the success. I don't know why. That is such an Australian mentality, tall poppy. I mean, I've talked about this till we're blue in the face. Why are you so mad that people are successful? I don't get it.
But also one more thing on that before we get back to some more super chats, because there's a few there that we still need to get to, and we're getting pretty close to needing to wind up. Most people's default is to try and create win-win situations. And they will only kick into that selfish, I win at your expense mode when times are tough and the chips are down, or when they're pushed into it by something, government regulation or something makes it impossible to have a win-win. For most people, including most business owners, employers, all the rest of it, if they are gaining from a transaction, they're happy, to leave a little bit on the table so that the other side gains as well, because that leads to repeat business, it improves culture, it makes people happier. The situation where that doesn't happen is where you have a situation like in Australia, where the government is taking a massive chunk out of the middle of every person's pay packet. Right? You think workers are greedy. Oh, sorry, you think employers are greedy. Sorry, but business owners are greedy. The government's taking 50% of your earnings and doing nothing in return for it. That's greed. And so you're sitting there going, they're not paying me enough to live off. They're sitting there, your employer is sitting there going, we can't afford this. We're going to bankrupt the company if we keep up like this. And the reason both of those things can be true at the same time is because the government's taking a massive chunk out of the middle. If we deal with government, all of these other problems go away. Government is the heart of the immigration issue, which is obviously what the main topic was for the first hour and a half of this podcast. But it's also the solution to pretty much every other problem. Deal with government and the other problems fix themselves.
Yeah, I agree. I'm trying to keep up with the chat, and I'm really disheartened by how binary people are in their thinking. You know, it's a little bit shocking to me how nasty people want to be. Like, I know, you know, I don't know if you're reading them, Topher. Everything's an insult about how I look or how I speak. Okay, you don't agree with me. So you got to sit there and fucking insult how I look? Like, grow up.
So Carly, that little button that you showed me a while ago, starred comments that brings up the super chats.
Yes.
I clicked on that. And I can see that there's 2091, 2093 other comments that have popped up in the other tab that I haven't looked at. 2096. This is the thing. So this is a discipline that I've had to really build. It's very easy to get sucked in and be like, everything's shit. Oh, it's fine. Everything's shit. Oh, it's fine. Everything's shit. It's actually a nice day. Right? It's so easy to do that. And this is just another example of that. Now let's get through some super chats, shall we?
All right.
To be fair, though, it is pretty hard to have a decent conversation on a topic with a they, them pronoun advocate or someone who has a poor grasp of the English language. Yep. Obviously, common language is going to help you to communicate with people. But at the same time, you know, I communicate with my 2-year-old pretty well and she doesn't have much English. So, you know, there's always that.
I think there's a level of, you know, understanding if English isn't your first language. I hate when people talk louder. Like, a lot of these people have 2 or 3 languages under their belt. They're not stupid. They just don't know your slang.
Yeah, that's right.
Thanks for helping, Topherfield, Carey. Any woman that stands up for men usually gets picked on.
I think Carey's meant to be Carly.
Oh, Carly. Gotcha. That's me.
Thanks for helping me, Carly. Any woman that stands up for men usually gets picked on. That is sadly often very true. I think I probably disagree with almost all of my closest friends on at least 20% of big issues, whether that's theological or political or social. And that's healthy. And I know Daniel personally, and we'll sit around and have cigars and sit around in different social settings and so forth and have great discussions about all kinds of areas where we don't see eye to eye. And that's healthy. That's good. That's exactly what we all need to be doing.
Just on that, though, like, when you have disagreements with people or when you're not on the same way of thinking, it's not when you're talking to someone, people's intentions are to try and change that person's mind. You know, you can have a discussion without having to change the outcome. Like, hey, this is what I think. That's what you think. Yeah, cool. All right. Well, we disagree. That's okay. It's very normal.
100%. All right. Would you agree that multiculturalism is a failure, but multinationalism is fine? I would say it differently. I would say that multi-ethnic is fine. I've got no issue with multiple ethnicities. Every single type of DNA can come into Australia. I couldn't give a rat's. But yes, we need to ultimately come back to what are the roots of Australian society, which is what I talked about before, a belief in human rights, that the law is king, we're all subject to the same law, and ultimately live and let live and freedom, which is what that all the English Civil War, the Magna Carta and Magna Carta Mark II, which they had to get done shortly afterwards because Magna Carta I didn't last very long, the development of human rights, the Westminster system, all of that, imperfect though it most certainly is, was actually predicated on the idea that every single human being has their own inherent dignity and rights. And for as long as that's what we're coming back to, I don't care where you were born or what your DNA is and what your ancestral heritage is. That's where I'm at with that.
Yeah, I agree.
Here's a good one for you, Carly. You're going to love this one.
I'm going to go to an event with Brad Batten and David Southwick. They're discussing crime. I'm going to ask some questions. What should I ask for yous? Well, it's not what you should ask for us, mate. It's, you know, you're going as yourself. Don't feel like you need to speak on the collective. You know, this is the thing.
I think he's asking for some advice, though.
No, I get that. But, like, well, what do you feel like you need to know? That's what I'm trying to encourage here, like autonomy. Like, what do you feel like you need to know? I can tell you what I think you should ask. But have you yourself been a victim of crime? Do you know someone that's been impacted by a home invasion? What not angle, that's the wrong way of saying it, but what's your current thoughts on it, and why do you think it's a problem? Like for me, I talk about it because I am a victim of crime. We had a home invasion. I want to feel safe in my house. I feel very unsafe in my house, and just last week there was another home invasion around the corner. So I would say to Brad Batten, who is currently the opposition leader, is I believe this to be an election defining issue. I don't feel like the Liberals are coming out strong enough. Now, there are pockets of it, like Nicole Werner is doing a great job. But when it comes to social media, that's not a strong point for the Liberal Party. And they are notorious for just being completely off brand when it comes to things like this. I think the most important thing a sitting politician can do right now is go and talk to people in the community. Now, they'll say that they do, but they don't. Obviously, the Labor Party don't. They've got to stay on message or they get kicked out of the party. But I've met Brad. He's a nice enough guy. He used to be a police officer. I would ask him, as a former police officer, what do you feel like was the catalyst for this? What do you feel like has gotten to a point where, even though Jacinta Allen knows, because we know about it in the news every single day, there's another home invasion, there's another stabbing, whatever, why do you think Jacinta Allen feels emboldened to stand up there and gaslight us and tell us it's not that bad, or that she's taking, she's taking the steps required? Because I think that's the bigger question.
Yeah.
What's the incentive?
Something you just said there really rings alarm bells for me, Carly. You said that he's a nice enough guy. I'm sick and tired of Liberal politicians in Victoria being nice guys. I've talked about this before with Ted Baillieu when I helped him to get elected back in the day, not on purpose. I was involved in a campaign that happened to swing a seat, and he won by a single seat. And when I asked people about him before the election, people that know him, I know people that know his family quite well, have been in Victoria for quite a long time. When I say that, I mean multiple generations. And I would ask people, what's he like? And they would, all of them, to the point that I was like, this is weird. They would go, he's a nice guy. And it was just like, over and over again, he's a nice guy. He's a nice guy. He's a nice guy. And then he gets in and you realize he's got no stomach for a fight. That's what he's a nice guy means. We don't need a Liberal Party opposition leader in Victoria who's a nice guy.
I didn't mean it like that, but sure.
No, I know, but I'm like, he'd better have some balls. He'd better have some fight. Like, otherwise, what are we even doing here?
Well, I would ask this, like you guys would have heard me say last week, when I was at Parliament, I saw Jacinta Allen and I told her what I thought.
Yes.
I would ask these politicians, Jacinta Allen's got private security. She's going to be fine. She's not going to have a home invasion in her house. But who might? Her friend's kid, or like her auntie, or fucking, I don't know, her mum, right? Someone that she loves. And that person might have a machete thrown at them, or be stabbed by, or whatever, right? Then Jacinta might care. But for the most part, when it comes to these issues, most people are a little bit too removed. And that's what happened with COVID. Like, I hate talking about COVID because I just want to get over it. But the reason a lot of people didn't get up and march for COVID is because they were relatively unscathed by it.
Yeah,
a lot of people actually saved money during lockdown, and a lot of people quite enjoyed lockdown. And so, it's hard because you feel very impassioned about a subject and you're sitting there going, well, why doesn't everyone care? Well, it's not that they don't care. It's that they're not exposed to it, or it hasn't impacted them yet.
Yeah.
And, for a lot of people, they're like, well, how did Daniel Andrews get back in? Well, a lot of people thought he saved lives. And I know you don't agree with that. That's fine. But for someone else, that's their the truth to them.
That's what I believe. Yep.
That's the frustration thing,
Yep. All right, we got to blast through some here.
Okay.
So Big Fella says, I'm English, Scottish convict ancestry with some Aboriginal thrown in. I married the daughter of a German immigrant. My best mate of 55 years is of Italian migrants. I have friends who are Kiwi, Fijian, and Aboriginal. I love it. Exactly.
Good on you, mate.
Exactly. Yep. 100%.
Yeah, I'm the same. Right. My friends are all over the place. Yep.
All right. So this is a good comment. You want to read this one?
Immigration needs to be in line with how much we can build in the infrastructure and promote skills like building. I can get around that. I like that sentiment. I think that, as I said to Topher, and I've made my point during this live stream, I think immigration needs to be slowed down because too many things are broken simultaneously. And I think that knowing the competency of our government, they're not going to fix it. We need to eradicate some of the problems in the interim so that we can get down and fix some of the other things. I know Topher disagrees with me.
And my short version disagreement is, how about we deal with why can't we even maintain our current infrastructure, let alone build new stuff? Like literally the infrastructure we have is falling apart. With or without immigration, we've got a pretty serious problem. All right.
Well, you shared sorry to interrupt. You shared a photo of that incredible pothole wherever you were.
I did a reel of all the potholes on the overpass at Benalla, Euroa. Yeah. Terrible road condition. So
like,
I at 9. Sorry?
No, I was gonna say that's serious. Like someone can die from that.
Yeah.
But
Someone on a motorbike could easily get thrown off into the path of an oncoming car. I at 9, don't apologize, mate. We appreciate it. And also respect to you. We've crossed swords a few times and, disagreed with each other a fair bit. And yet you keep coming back.
If you know what cross swords means.
Well, okay. So, all right. So these days it's, all right, whatever. But you keep coming back. You keep watching. You keep being constructive in the comments. And we appreciate the super chat as well. All right. Abby, so you're going to like this one. Carly, do you want to read this one?
I get what you're saying, Topher, but there are too many issues with our government now, and change takes time. We need to pause immigration so we can sort our own shit. I agree with Abby. I agree.
The reason why I disagree is because if we were to stop immigration now, all the people that are gearing up to march would go home, and the actual problem would never get fixed. They wouldn't maintain the momentum and the passion. They'd go right back to their apathy, and the underlying problem would remain.
Yeah.
All right.
Can I just show you this comment because it's make me laugh?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm a child.
You are a child. All right, back to the serious stuff. It also attracts the vape shops, smoke shops, barbers, mobile phone repair, nail salons. They pay tax. They're not Australian. There's no GDP in these fronts. It's a lie agreed upon. Unfortunately, the delay has meant that we've lost the context for that comment, which might have been a very good one at that moment, but without the context for where it belonged, I've kind of lost it a little bit.
Found hope. Do you want to send it again? I'll keep an eye out for your comment. Just elaborate so we know what you mean.
Again, just send it through again with a bit of just a fraction more context, and Carly will keep an eye out for it. I'm going to bring it up again. There's the $300 super chat from Stephen. Thank you very much. From Daniel, I spent 15 years doing heavy labor till I ended up with a chronic lower back spinal issue. I could have gotten DSP, disability support pension. I chose to go back and learn a new skill, and I now run my own massage therapy. Now, can I talk about Daniel for a second? I've known Daniel for a couple of years now. In tough life situation, back injury, all the rest of it. And what I've seen him do over the years is never give up and keep on looking at doing jobs and pivoting when he's hit roadblocks. So there was a point in time there where the massage, so he's trained as a massage therapist. He's really good. He works on me when I get sore. But when that's slow, I saw him go and get a job as a delivery driver, moving sheet plasterboard, and working through his back injury and with the pain just to pay bills and to make it work and to find a way to provide for his family. Now, thankfully, that was short-lived, and he's doing the massage therapy, and that's on and off. Some weeks are better than others, but he's really good. And more importantly, from my point of view, he's one of those people that just says, "This is on me. I'm going to find a way to make this work." And I respect that. I think that's exactly that's the Aussie spirit to me. I'm going to go and make this happen and make this work and provide for the people that I'm responsible for.
And I dare say, Daniel, I could be wrong. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you were inspired to go into massage therapy because you benefited off this in a way and you realized that you could help people. There's usually an incentive for that career change. So good on you.
Actually, you know what? That's a great question that I will ask him next time I catch up with him is what was the catalyst?
I might be making assumptions.
Well, I know that he's friends with another very well-established long-time massage therapist in the area. And maybe that friendship came about because he needed treatment. I actually don't know the origin of that. Primal is a social media app like Facebook, but you can control your data and what you see. No company algorithms or ads, just real posts you choose to follow. Cool. Okay. Well, thank you.
That must be a new one.
Yeah, you didn't have to give us another super chat to explain, but we do appreciate it. And thank you for giving us the context there for that earlier comment that we couldn't quite make sense of. Okay, would you interview Paul Motter about his documentary series, The Wasp Files, about the Port Arthur massacre? There are serious human rights violations in question about Martin Bryant's guilty plea. There is certainly some serious issues there. Would I? I've been asked this before, and I am happy to go into hot button issues, but not until after I've done my research and I feel like I've got the lie of the land. And this one has sat there just outside of the, an issue kind of ends up sort of piercing this bubble that I've got around me. And then ultimately, once it's inside there, sooner or later, it'll bubble to the top and I'll do a video on it. But it's a pretty messy maelstrom of stuff at any given moment in time. There's a lot happening, a lot changing. And this one is one of those ones that's kind of bumped off that bubble a few times where I've just looked at it and gone, the time investment that I would have to make for me to be willing to wade into this. I'm not saying anything about whether Paul is right or wrong. Let me be really clear. I'm not being skeptical of him, but my audience put a lot of faith in me and I respect that and I honor that and I'd never ever want to betray that faith. So that's a big time investment before I'm then going to be willing to do that. So I'll be honest, at the moment, I'm really interested, actually. I'm interested in the work. Part of me building the team that I've got now in the Philippines is that hopefully by the end of the year, I will no longer be working the crazy hours that I'm working at the moment. And then I'll actually be able to make more time to pursue things that interest me, but require a bit more of a time investment. Whereas right now, I just like, I would need to obviously, sorry, you go.
I was going to say, I've looked at it and I've talked to people who know about it, but like I've only heard sort of surface level stuff. And the one thing I will say is it's really hard to be over everything to the minute detail to understand it. And I appreciate that you guys want us to touch every topic. It's not that we're avoiding topic. It's like we only have so much bandwidth. Like Topher's got 3 kids. I'm studying a postgraduate degree and running a business and doing this podcast. Like, I need to sleep. And the other thing is too, and like I've learned this through research, and I don't know, Topher, if you do approach this the same. Like academic research requires you to do extensive research and across broad spectrums, right? Like, go to people you disagree with, go over here, go over there. It's so time consuming. I'm currently studying one subject and I've been doing it for 18 months. And I feel like I've only scratched the surface. So, like if there is someone out there who's doing amazing work, then like, let's let them speak because they're doing the research,
The other thing on this particular issue was in the back of my mind, where each time it's kind of bumped up against that bubble, the other thought that's come into my head is this issue is going to still be there in 6 months. There are some issues that you kind of need to jump on. If you're going to make a difference, you've got to jump on it now. Whereas this is something that's going to be pretty perennial. Like this is relevant for the rest of our lives. And so there hasn't been that sense of urgency for me to prioritize it and displace other things. So the answer is actually yes. I'm actually really interested to see it myself, then do my own independent research. And then depending on where I land after that, absolutely. But it's a tomorrow thing, not a today thing, for all the reasons that I've mentioned.
Can I interrupt for a second? Hang on. Sorry. So this guy gave us a $300 super chat, and has just been consistently like sledging me the whole chat. I'm so confused. I feel like I'm in a DV relationship.
Well, see, I feel like that's actually a compliment. He's saying how unfortunate for the children that could have grown up with you as a wonderful mother. I mean,
he did not mean it that way.
You gave us the school mom treatment earlier in this episode. You really went full school mom on us.
Tough love. I love it when people who don't know me get shocked that I get all fucking spicy. I'm like, at least I'm consistent. All right, I don't understand this one.
No, sorry, found hope. You've lost us both. I got no idea. Left authoritarian, left libertarian, right authoritarian, and right libertarian are the 4 points of the political compass. Libertarian on its own is meaningless. No, it's not. No, it's not. Am I a left libertarian? Yes. Am I a right libertarian? Yes. Because I'm a libertarian. I believe in freedom for all. If you're not hurting somebody, you're not doing anything wrong. I don't understand. I don't understand the issue here. All right. Yeah, I believe that you should be able to grow your pot and guard your pot plantation with guns. Like we can. You should be free. It's that simple. I disagree with the premise of the comment. Cruel intentions. I'm going to start a union for everyone who's being forced to use self-checkouts at supermarkets for zero pay. Yeah, talk about slave labor.
I actually said that to a lady once. So I told you this story on the podcast really quickly. I was at where was I? I can't remember. Anyway, I was at a self-checkout and I was, that's right. You know how sometimes at Coles, there's the one at Southland, you pull your trolley up and it's still got a conveyor belt. So it's not your normal self-checkout.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
a conveyor belt one and you do it yourself. Anyway, I'm the one packing the bag. So I put all my groceries up and I'm just doing my thing. And then the Coles lady comes over. She goes, no, scan that one first and then put that there. And then you do those ones. And I was like, you can do it for me. I don't want to do this anyway. And she's like telling me how to pack my bag. I'm like, do you want to do it? It's so funny.
Yes. Yes, it is.
That
is a fast track to liver poisoning. I actually, you know, we've been pretty good. We've been pretty good today. I've only mentioned Venezuela once or twice.
The word, not once.
You haven't, but you have mentioned it. You have. You're using code words. You're just substituting words. That's cheating.
Did I mention my actual thing, or did I say that I am studying?
You said that you're studying postgraduate. I don't know. I mean, look, I don't know. Depending on my mood, I might.
Who's making the rules?
Anyway, yeah. All right. This is the last super chat, and then we're going to wind up. It's crazy to think that Aussies were one time sought after in the UK for their work ethic. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And we are not those people anymore.
And to that, do you remember back in the day that anyone who had worked at McDonald's was highly sought after because they had gone through rigorous training? Nowadays, it's not the case with McDonald's. Yeah. It's really sad.
Yeah. See, I didn't know that until you told me. I still thought of it as being this place that you could go and get this amazing training. Yeah, I'm sad to hear that.
Not anymore.
All righty. Thank you, everyone. We have set a new record by far. We right now still have over 1,800 people watching us live, 1,823 people watching live right now, which is a new record by nearly 500 people, by about, by over 500, by about 550 people. A new record for tonight. So thank you so much for joining us. We hope that that first hour and 15 minutes or so where we were dealing with the immigration stuff, that has been helpful. I don't care whether you agree with me, whether you agree with Carly, whether you have other ideas entirely that don't really align with either of us. That's not the point. Hopefully what you've seen is a constructive conversation where people are able to put their perspectives and their points of view in a way that actually builds friendships rather than destroying them. Carly, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is pretty evident of a normal conversation. Like, you're allowed to get emotional, you're allowed to get worked up, but at the end of the day, like, accept that it's okay that people disagree with you. You don't have to, cut them out of your life. I mean, people did that during COVID. Didn't we learn the lesson? Oh, yeah. And I get it. There's a lot of people who, like, I'm even saying that I'm anti, like, the mass immigration and people still coming for me. I don't know what you want me to say. Shit.
You can never be extreme enough for the extremes. On Ma'am One, thank you very much. That's very, very kind of you. Right at the end of the show, we thank you for that little tip at the end. We do appreciate, well, not little tip, the big tip at the end. The little tip has come from Cruel Intentions. Thank you, Cruel Intentions. We appreciate that. And it says that's why they were called McJobs. But yeah, on Ma'am One, thank you very much. We do plan to keep up the good work, and you can catch our podcast. When can people catch our podcast, Carly?
Our full-length podcast is Wednesdays at 7:00, and you can watch it premiering on YouTube, and I'm always in the comments having a chat to you guys. And then Monday night at 7:30, we do this, where we talk about shit, and we hang shit on each other and you in the comments. So you're welcome.
Yeah. So Abby, you're absolutely right to be a big fan of Carly's. Carly, you're my new love. This is in this crazy political world. Thank you for the sacrifices you made during COVID. Yeah. You know what, Carly? There's actually a lot of people that aren't going to know your story as we go forward, as we build a bigger and bigger audience in this. At some point in time, you and I are probably going to have to do like an Origins episode.
I call it my villain origin story.
Yeah. Super villain origin story, where we actually just talk about how it all began and where we started and why we ended up where we are. But that's not going to be right now because it's well and truly after finishing time. Any final thoughts, Carly, before we bail out?
The chat did descend into chaos for a while there, but that's okay. And it's hard. And I know this will happen. I'm sure you feel the same on your YouTube. You used to, like, your crew, what did we call everyone? What did they call themselves? The oddies. The oddies, yeah. And like, you know the regular usernames, the people, and they've got context because they've been there since the beginning. You're the OGs. And then you start to grow, and then there's people who haven't listened to the other 31 podcasts that we've done that go for 3 hours and have all the context and, and know why we do tangent time. And it's like, it's weird, right? Because
Yeah.
people are coming in, they're like, what the fuck are these people talking about? I'm like, wow, you kind of had to be there, you know?
Yeah, you kind of had it. It was funny at the time. All right. So, guys, you can help out the show with super chats on a Monday night. We love that. Thank you so much. Super chats on the Wednesday night. Well, Carly's in the comments. We also appreciate those a lot, of course. You can also head to goodpeoplebreakbadlaws.com. That is my website, soon to be completely redeveloped, courtesy of Carly, by the way. Goodpeoplebreakbadlaws.com. There you will find my merch, but also, more importantly, you will find the Oddcast merch, the t-shirts, the hoodies, designed by Carly. Yeah.
While we're here, may as well show everyone.
Yeah, show everyone. Let's do it.
Have a squiz.
Let's do it.
You know, we've got them all. We've got Stay on Tangent, an ode to Star Wars or something. I don't know. That goes over my head. We've got This Is All Just a Simulation, right? Which against popular, against your opinion, Topher, it's quite popular.
My opinion, it has been very popular, yeah.
And then, of course, the OG.
Click on that one. Click on that one. Yeah, there we go.
Tangent Time.
That looks
with a DeLorean.
Sweet. The colors pop off that like you wouldn't believe. And underneath the Oddcast, what it says is, where we're going, we don't need plans, which is obviously a nod to Back to the Future, but it is also exactly how we roll here at the Oddcast.
I love this. Like, when's Carl starting an OnlyFans, mate? You wish. You don't have deep enough pockets. Just saying.
That's funny. All right, so good people break bad laws, grab some merch, and we will see you at the next episode at the Oddcast HQ on YouTube. Make sure you're a subscriber at the Oddcast HQ.
Most excellent. And yeah, on that note,
we're good.
Peace out.
Button pressed.